Innovative Properties Group, Tribe Level, Property Masters, Ready Mix USA, the Geiger Group, sponsoring our concession stand, Alpha Insurance, and Credit Union of Georgia. Sponsoring our press box, Chick-fil-A Hickory Flat, and Ernst Concrete. Spear Level, I-Transit Solutions LLC. Tomahawk Level, CYFA, Physical Hickory Flat, Johnson Plumbing, Squeaky Clean, and 1010 Contracting. On behalf of the Cherokee County Board of Education, Dr. Brian Hightower, Superintendent of Schools, Principal Mr. Robert Van Alstein, and Athletic Director Mr. Peter Floyda, welcome to tonight's game. The GHSA and its member schools have made a commitment to promote good sportsmanship by student athletes, coaches, and spectators at all GHSA sanctioned events.
Oh, shoot.
Profanity, degrading remarks, and intimidating actions directed at official sport competitors will not be tolerated. And our grounds were removed from the event scene. Spectators are not allowed to enter the competition area during warm-ups or while the contest is being conducted. Thank you for your cooperation in the promotion of good sportsmanship at today's event.
I have to get up there. Okay, listen.
To ensure the safety of our students, staff, and guests, CCSD staff reserves the right to deny access to this event or to remove persons from this event for unacceptable, disruptive behavior.
Okay? And then it's up to you from there, right?
Weapons of any kind are not permitted on school property or within the school safety zone.
Oh, that's a good idea.
This school is a drug-free environment, therefore alcoholic beverages and illegal substances are prohibited from our campus. Additionally, the use of tobacco and vape devices on this campus is prohibited. CCSD staff reserves the right to inspect all packages, oversized purses, or containers that may contain contraband to ensure compliance with these guidelines. Sports may have a little different this year, but rest assured that Northside Hospital's commitment to Sequoia is stronger than ever. We encourage you to stay safe, and with your help, we will all get through this together. Go Chiefs.
No, you're fine.
Boys, y'all ready to knock off the rust?
Just trying to keep it light out here, guys.
Well, we're back here at Skip Pope Memorial Stadium in Canton, Georgia. I want to thank the two gentlemen joining me in the booth today. The man, the myth, the legend, Will Cooper from WLJA joining us here, and the most eligible bachelor at Sequoia High School, Will Hogendijk. Gentlemen, thank you so much for
to have a football season to begin with. Obviously got pushed back a little bit to September and then through December's when they played, but I think for coming into this one, spring game finally around, obviously this time last year we were all hunkered down still couldn't go out and do anything. So to see everybody out here, I know that, the vaccines have rolled out, got a lot of mask regulations that have been lifted here, especially here in Cherokee County. It's nice to see people out and about getting back to regular life. And, of course, you got to feel good for the kids on the field, right? Because they're going to get a full spring practice, a full summer practice. They're going to get used to this offense and used to some of the changes that we've seen because there have been a lot of coaching changes coming for Sequoia, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But, obviously, as you mentioned, the tradition of football in the South, especially here in Cherokee County, as the teams have done so well recently.
Yeah, and again, as you mentioned, Chase, the atmosphere in the stadium, you got the band, you got the student section, all the parents and relatives that come out. It really just makes this an enjoyable experience, and with Chiefs TV, we just try to bring as much of that as we can to you.
And speaking of coaching changes, someone who's not unfamiliar with Cherokee County football, I see coming up the stairs right now, that's Coach Tom Sheehan. He'll be on the Lassiter sideline for tonight. We're used to seeing him at Woodstock High School and myself seeing him on the coaching staff here at Sequoia back in the early 2000s.
Wherever that was, right? Well, that's the thing is that for anybody that doesn't know, Woodstock kind of blew up the program, so to speak. Had a couple of down years with a lot of talent, and one of those pieces that came over was Brent Buddy. He'll be the defensive coordinator for Sequoia, as we'll get to see their new defense. He was the head coach over there, really respected, really important to point that out. Known for his defense as well. Obviously having guys like anybody who's familiar with the county, David Daniel, 4-star safety, who's now at Georgia playing over there, was featured in the G-Day game, actually, as a matter of fact, in April. So moving forward, a lot of excitement for those guys, as you mentioned, Coach Sheehan at Lassiter. So kind of a new regime change. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But as things are, it's definitely moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Cherokee County is so it's such a tight-knit community. We see so many coaches and players who played at one of these Cherokee County schools, so many coaches that have coached Cherokee County schools end up at different Cherokee County schools. You think of guys that I played with in the early 2000s like Eric Robinson. He was one of the defensive backs coach over there at Woodstock last year as well. So there's just so many people and that go in between these programs, and I think that's what makes Cherokee County so special when it comes to their high school football programs.
Well, it's one of the rare places where they actually have, and I'm telling stories out of school here, but all the 6 Cherokee County high school coaches have a group chat together where they talk and discuss and things like that, and that kind of connectivity allows them to do things. So when we talk about the first scrimmage games, you've got River Ridge facing Cherokee, and then obviously here Sequoia facing Etowah, as well as some other games going on we'll talk about. But the reason that flows so fluently through that is because of the communication that you have between these guys. And also, they're not unfamiliar. The players aren't either, because the group is so tight here. And, we kind of base rivalries based on if you have to share a Walmart or a Waffle House, as redneck as that sounds. But that's kind of how you gauge the rivalries in high school and high school football in particular. And when you know that if you're going to go out there to the Walmart up here in Canton, you might see some guys from Creekview and you might see some guys from Cherokee. It kind of adds into that. And a lot of guys move around through middle school and elementary school, so you see a lot of the CYFA programs run together. And I think that's what makes it so special.
And coming into this game, Sequoia being led by head coach James Teeter's been at the helm. This will be his 13th season here at Sequoia coming up this fall. But not only his 13th season here at Sequoia, his 20th year as a head coach in the state of Georgia. As you know, he had a little stint there at Dunwoody for a while where he picked up a region championship. But on the other side of the field tonight, going to be the Lassiter Trojans. Had a little bit of a rough year last year as Lassiter's kind of fallen on hard times. Coming in with head coach Sean Thom. Last year they went 2-8 and 2-6 in the region. Those 2 wins were over Osborne and South Cobb. So Lassiter looking to right the ship here, and a good spring game could kick that off for them.
Yeah, as you look at the stats, Coach Teeter here at Sequoia, 68-61 overall. Other side of the field, Tom, 3-17 overall against, going into his 3rd season here. Really rough program with Lassiter, trying to get a little footing. You kind of see the coaching changes. They're going to get a little traction here this year, I believe. And for Sequoia, you talk about the tale of 2 different sides of the coin there. And really, the points per game and points allowed per game is where you can kind of tell the discrepancy there. 22 points per game, allowed 25.5. And Lassiter on the other side of the coin scored an average of 17, but they allowed 32. So you're going to need to see that defense sure up as they get ready here. And that's one of the things you're going to want to see tonight.
one of the things I got to talk about this week during spring practice with Coach Teeter was how they're going to carry that momentum from the back half of the season into this coming fall, as that team was playing like a team with their hair on fire, and the only thing that stood in their way on the back half of the season was River Ridge and a very interesting tiebreaker system to get into the GHSA playoffs. But as the Chiefs are about to come out on the field, looks like we've got our captains selected. So our captains for the Chiefs tonight are going to be Peyton Lucas, Jackson Hancock, Matthew Traynor, and Isaiah Sanders, the senior linebacker wearing number 7. And coming out to meet them, the captains for the Lassiter Trojans going to be the quarterback Bryson Harrison, going to be a junior coming up this year. And number 4 standing next to him
unlisted
is unlisted on the roster. That's all right, though. Coach Thom sent me an email earlier saying that there were some guys who are still coming in from spring sports as those were winding down. So we'll just call him number 4 for now and hope for the best.
Scary number 4. And one thing I want to mention is that this is going to be a new look Sequoia, not in the way that they're going to run the offense. The defense should change a little bit with obviously Coach Buddy coming over, but we'll talk about some of the guys they need to replace, right? So Jaden Mitchell, obviously graduating. Aiden Moore, for anybody that doesn't know, transferring over to Cherokee now. So you're going to have to replace a lot of guys in the backfield. You mentioned Peyton Lucas being one of the captains out there. It's really going to be up to him and Jack Piescores to kind of take over that line. The good news is the defensive line is strong. We're going to talk about the secondary later today. Had a lot of replacements there. But the linebacking and defensive core, especially with Avery Bourne and Harrison Hood, of course, one of them having an injury. We'll talk about that later as well. But a lot of guys returning on the defensive side of the ball. So Buddy has a lot of talent to work with there. But you want to see the offense kind of rely more on Matthew Traynor. He only attempted 100 passes, 54% completion percentage, and 700 yards, 9 tubs on only 3 interceptions there. So a really good rate for him, especially out of a wing T quarterback.
Yeah, and despite Sequoia losing all those key seniors in their offense and defense, they do have a lot of young guys to look to. I mean, the JV team had a great season, and there's a lot of sophomores and juniors on varsity, so they have a lot of guys to look to pull that weight that the seniors will no longer be able to.
Speaking of one of those younger guys to pull the weight, we saw him last year get a lot of reps in the secondary, but they've got him listed as a wingback here this year, Jackson Hancock. His freshman year during the fall, he's going to be a senior coming up, got a lot of reps. Coach Teeter was really high on him during spring practice, and they've already got him out as a captain for the spring game, so some exciting things there as he's going to help Piescores and Lucas carry the load in that backfield for the Sequoia wing T offense.
Yeah, kind of talking about baptism by fire, right? Got a little bit of the taste of how things were last year. As we mentioned, he had about 30, 40 carries by the end of the year, a couple hundred yards, and then you're going to really jump into it this year because he's a captain, obviously going to be relied on as a leader, as you mentioned, moving into his senior year here. And this is a Sequoia team that has a lot of, you want to say experience because they do, but also on the offensive side of the ball, looking for answers on that offensive line as there was a lot of rotation towards the end of the year last year.
So an interesting similarity here. Both teams coming into the fall season with experienced juniors playing quarterback as Bryson Harrison kind of got his baptism by fire, like Will Cooper said. Last year with the Lassiter Trojans, he's going to come in with a year of starting under his belt as a junior quarterback, and Matthew Traynor, who, there was a little bit of a quarterback competition at the beginning of the year, but he definitely took that job midway through the season and led that team on the hot streak towards the end of the season. I mean, closing out some big games as they had a close one against Chattahoochee. Cambridge was a fantastic game.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, it's Bryson Harrison, the quarterback there for Lassiter. 35 of 79 on completions, 468 yards, 5 touchdowns, and an interception to boot. So, kind of not a really big throwing team. Lassiter isn't. Also, returning is the running back Bryce Horton. He had 47 carries, 173 yards. You can kind of see where they averaged that 17 points per game. Had a hard time moving the ball, but fortunately for them, as we mentioned, 2-8, they have a little bit of opportunity within the Region 6 there, as there have been some historically weak teams there in that program, but Lassiter really looking to advance this year and move forward.
As we go down to the field, it looks like Sequoia is going to be kicking off to Lassiter. Can't see the numbers back to receive for the Trojans.
That'll be number 5 on the left-hand side, Jaheim Murray, the sophomore athlete, and then on the other side will be number 25, Pierce Stephenson.
So the senior Joseph Ryan going to boot this one away for the Chiefs. Scoreboard not really working tonight, so we're going to do the best we can to keep you guys informed. Will Cooper and I will be going back and forth on the play-by-play duties. I'll take Sequoia when they're on offense, and Coop's going to take Lassiter while they're on offense. Sequoia wearing those traditional all-black uniforms with that winged helmet as they'll be kicking off from right to left to your screen as we look into this beautiful Georgia sunset as we get ready to get underway here at the spring game in 2021. And we are underway as Ryan boots a low line drive, and that one's going to go and hit the C in the end zone, and we'll have a touchback for the first bit of our action here at the spring game at Sequoia High School.
And, you know, Chase, another one of those key players that Sequoia is unfortunately going to have to lose is the kicker Zarita, and you know how key he had been in getting us field goals as well as getting the ball, getting those good touchbacks. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of guys that tried out for that position, but that's definitely going to be a hard one to fill.
Yeah, Zarita, and we voted him all-county at WLJ, along with our guys over at Cedarwood Tavern. All-county kicker, really solid guy. I mean, 50-plus, it was pretty much automatic there. As you see the Trojans come out onto the field, as we mentioned, Bryson Harrison, the junior quarterback, coming out for this one. They're going to spread out with 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 5 down linemen, as you would expect out of the shotgun. Sequoia lined up in a 3-4 with 4 back. It's going to be a handoff right up the middle here. Good bit of hole. Look out. 50. 45 got 1 man to beat, and he does. He's going to be off to the races, as that is a touchdown for the Lassiter Trojans on the opening play. What an amazing scamper there, as we'll try and get you a number there, as that is Jaheim Murray, just the man that we mentioned on the kickoff return.
Jaheim Murray, you know, I was down on the line earlier before the game started, and Coach Sheehan had actually told me to watch out for him. I didn't think he would get us on an 80-yard strike on the first play of the game, but a gigantic hole opened up between the guard and the center, and it was a foot race between him and Jackson Hancock, and he won that one, was able to punch it in, and Lassiter with a quick 6-0 lead.
Right you are. Drew Campbell on to attempt the point after. He's a junior. Low snap, but the hold is good. The kick is up, and it is through. 7-0 in favor of the Lassiter Trojans.
So Sequoia shaking the cobwebs off of that defense here in the early portion of the game. First play, and they give up a gigantic run, and already 80 yards rushing on the day for the Lassiter Trojans.
Yeah, and you know, the rough part of that is that it was really just a simple play, right? Just a handoff right up the middle. Wasn't really even a draw. And just like that, you see they're up here 7-0 early. So for Sequoia, listen, it's a spring game. You don't want to say you don't rely too heavily on this, especially as things gauge for the beginning of the season, but definitely a coachable moment moving forward.
So Sequoia going to look to rebound. The only man that was home was Jackson Hancock, and Hancock maybe not the best angle to the ball, but off to the races was that running back for Lassiter. And Jaheim Murray, going to be a sophomore this year.
Yeah.
So a few more years
Young
of
talent
him for the Lassiter Trojans.
Drew Campbell set to kick this one off.
So interesting, back to receive the kickoff, going to be Jackson Hancock and Matthew Traynor.
Traynor, an all-around athlete, saw him play safety a little bit last year. We'll talk about him as the offense comes out on the field.
To receive for the Chiefs, number 11 Matthew Traynor and number 2 Jackson Hancock.
Checks with his men. Everybody's lined up and set. Hand up, and toe meets leather. As this one's going to squeak towards, and it'll be a touchback there, caught by Traynor. Chase, take it away. So
we'll get to see this Sequoia wing T offense. If there's one thing that you can rely on for the Sequoia Chiefs, it's going to be that offensive scheme. They've been playing that. They've been playing that wing T football since probably the school was founded back in 1990. Offense that relies heavily on pre-snap motion. Sometimes it really seems like it's been feast or famine for the Chiefs these last couple years. Some games they've broken open 44 points, and some games they can't score any. So it seems like you get one or the other as this team comes out to take the field for the first time, as Traynor leads the troops out onto the field. Flanking him on both sides is going to be Hancock and Pie scores. Lucas, the fullback. Motion now for Hancock. He hands it off to the fullback, which is Lucas. Lucas rumbles ahead, still moving the legs, but finally taken down after a hard 5-yard. And Sequoia facing a 2nd and 5 now, as we got some fancy sticks over there for the first down markers. They've got the digital ones, so they don't have to flip the cards now.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like about Sequoia, as you mentioned, you know they're going to run the wing T. Only had 3 coaches in their history, and still old-fashioned. Matthew Traynor runs over to the sideline to get the call from Teeter. Very old school if you like some old-fashioned football.
So Traynor going to drop under center. Tight end goes in motion to the far side of the field. Ball on the far hash. Traynor drops back, and he throws an interception. What a grab by the linebacker, and a turnover in Sequoia. Things going from bad to worse as that pass was picked off by the linebacker for Lassiter. That's going to be number 14.
Noah Flisser there on the interception. What a grab by the linebacker, senior as well. As Lassiter here early dominating. Of course, as we mentioned, don't read too much into it, but it's kind of interesting to see them attempt to pass early. As we mentioned, they might want to try and open it up a little bit more. As you mentioned, sometimes it's a feast or famine. A passing game helps substitute that, as you see Traynor will stay on the field here at safety. So an interesting note as the Trojans will come back out on the field.
Traynor, one of the few two-way players for the Sequoia Chiefs. Let's see if that defense can stiffen their necks and have a much better showing this time than they did during the first possession.
Harrison once again at quarterback, 4 wide receivers. Gets the snap there. Once again, another inside run, and he's going to be stopped for a gain of nothing there. A group of Chiefs there on the tackle. Looked like first contact there was made by number 50, Brady Curl. He's a sophomore this year. Yeah, go ahead, Chase.
So no gain on the play. A great response by Sequoia's defense is holding them to maybe 1 yard, but they're going to give them, they're going to spot it back at the original line of scrimmage. So a good job coming out of the gate there for the Sequoia defense.
You see Avery Bourne here on the near side of the defensive line setup as he'll work his way now to the far side. An important thing to note is that his counterpart, Harrison Hood, is out with an injury for the spring. They expect him to be back for the fall, but had some muscle injury there as the Trojans are set for the 2nd and 10. Once again, a handoff. This time it's bounced outside at least. And a fight for a couple yards there. Once again, that is still number 5, Jaheim Murray. And as you mentioned, only a sophomore, so Lassiter fans have a lot to look forward to with this young man because he's shown a pretty good vision and then some pretty good open field speed as well.
Sequoia's defense coming out here on this second possession for the Lassiter Trojans, playing with a little bit of a purpose after giving up a huge chunk play. Sequoia playing a little angry here, trying to hold these guys to a 3 and out here on their second possession of the ball game.
And as we mentioned, you'll see Sequoia run a 3-4 defense, 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, and then in a standard set they'll have 4 defensive backs as well as they're spread out. This time they'll switch to a nickel package as there's 4 wide receivers split out. Sequoia drops back just a little bit on the coverage here, showing a blitz to the weak side. Almost had him, and then they finally get him. It's going to be half a sack for number 7 and number 9 for the Chiefs. That's Isaiah Saunders and then Avery Bourne, as we mentioned. So good sign there for the Chiefs defense as they hold up strong. It'll bring up 4th and long for the Lassiter Trojans.
One of the other players that was mentioned by Coach Teeter when I got a chance to talk to him this week was Rowan Steele. Rowan Steele there came off the edge from that linebacker position and shot around the edge and put the initial pressure on the Lassiter quarterback, and Sequoia able to really stiffen their necks here and force a 4th and long on the opposite side of the field.
Gotta love a guy named Steele.
Yeah, and you saw those key tackles and pressure by those soon-to-be sophomores, Brady Curl. And, I mean, he's one of those key sophomores that we're really going to be looking forward to this next year.
Snap on the punt, this one away, high, and it's going to be taken at roughly the 14-yard line, and that's where the Sequoia Chiefs offense will start for their second offensive possession of the game. First one ended in disaster, 1 5-yard run and then an interception. Let's see if Sequoia can turn things around here just like their defense did.
Quick update here. As we mentioned, there's a lot of other spring games going on. We'll get into that a little bit later. River Ridge taking on Marietta, so kind of a battle of titans down there, so to speak, and Marietta jumps on them first, 7-0, 8:15 in the first quarter.
So Sequoia, after a fantastic defensive stop, will start deep in their own end zone in the shadow of the scoreboard by their Coach Ray Face Memorial Fieldhouse. Anybody that ever played for Coach Face can sing you songs of that man all day long. A beloved figure around the Sequoia Chiefs football program. Traynor leads the troops back out onto the field. Tight end motions to the far side. Sequoia on the near hash mark. Traynor under center. Now motioning back to the other side, and it's going to be a sweep up the sideline and maybe picks up 5 yards. So a good first play for the Chiefs. On the run by number 26, Carter Sant. Carter Sant, one of the players we're used to seeing play in that defensive back 7, as he got a lot of reps at linebacker and even some defensive back last season, as he gets a big chunk of yardage for the first play. 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 coming up. Chiefs got to get to the 24-yard line. Traynor under center. Lucas behind him. Hands it off to Lucas up the middle. Nothing happening there as he is met immediately at the line of scrimmage. And that will bring up 3rd and 4 for the Chiefs.
River Ridge down 14-0 now. Marietta with a quick pick 6 as well. And as you mentioned, Sequoia still kind of scrapping here on offense. And as you expect, a wing T team normally will get better as the season progresses, as they get sharper on the pre-snap counts and really working the snap count.
Having an experienced quarterback under center doesn't hurt either. Now motion coming to the near side. Handoff fakes. Traynor going to take it himself. Runs up the middle. He's got a huge gap. He cuts back to the near side of the field. Got a lot of room. Crosses midfield. One man to beat. Now he's got two guys surrounding him. Cuts back, and he's going to be tackled at the 25-yard line. So a big gain for Matthew Traynor as he breaks this one open for the Sequoia Chiefs and moves all the way down to the 25-yard line of Lassiter.
Noah Flisser was the hero on that pass to interception, but he got put on absolute skates by Matthew Traynor out there in open field as he picks up a huge first down.
Sequoia starting to settle down a little bit and get into their rhythm. Going out wide is going to be Evan Sangstock, Zach Conrad, the junior wide receiver out far. And a handoff up the middle to Lucas. He's got a lot of real estate. So a big pickup there for Peyton Lucas as he gets 9 of the 10 yards required to move the sticks. And Sequoia is now inside the Lassiter Trojans red zone.
Chase, Peyton Lucas is going to be one of those guys that's going to get the ball a lot this season. You saw him get it a lot of reps and yardage with the JV team. And, he's already got to be one of those guys that's going to get the ball a lot this season.
Traynor throwing an interception on his first pass attempt in their second offensive play of the game, but they've come right back down, marched down the field. Traynor shook off that interception, led the team down, and they scored a touchdown.
Yeah, and Sequoia is really able to be scrappy and put together a few plays and get down the field really quickly and get a quick touchdown, which is exactly what they needed.
So Ryan about to kick this one off for the Chiefs. It's a good-looking kick as the receiver backpedals into the end zone. He drops it, but it goes into the end zone, so that will be a touchback according to the GHSA rules of high school football.
Yeah, one important thing to note is it's spring games, so you're not going to see them on special teams rushing anybody or anything like that. You're allowed to hit anybody else any other way, by the way. No quarterbacks are protected or anything like that. Go ahead and get them, as we saw in that last sack from Sequoia on the last Lassiter drive. But, yeah, on kicking, you're not going to see them really go after the kicks or anything like that, and they're going to try and keep the returns to a minimum as well.
It does have that fall football feel to it because, usually the spring games they'll have, coaches on the field directing traffic, but they're letting them go here today at Skip Pope Stadium.
Sure are. Bryson Harrison set to take back. Of course, the star in this one so far has been Jaheim Murray, as it's been all rushes here for Lassiter, and they'll do the exact same thing. Keep running that left side, but that time it's not going to work, maybe a yard. And you kind of wonder if the scouting report says something that they like or if they have a strong left tackle out there, as they do have a little bit of size out there. I believe number 70 for them, that's Ethan McKinney, as you mentioned, has an offer from Liberty. He's got a chance to talk to Coach Sheehan down there on the field.
So a great job by this Sequoia defense shutting down the run, save for that one little slip up early in the game that resulted in the only Lassiter score. But Sequoia has come back out in a little bit of a different looking defense as we're used to seeing the Sequoia Chiefs play in. That Coach Bud 3-4, and Sequoia doing a great job of shutting down the run.
Well, it's a smart defense to run because you're going to find a lot more spread teams, as Creekview's kind of adopted that, River Ridge has adopted that, and Region 7 6A is full of it. And some pre-snap penalties there. That's going to be a false start.
And that's too bad. That receiver for Lassiter had a lot of real estate to work with.
Out there on the reception was Shaw Mixon, a sophomore once again. So we're talking about a lot of sophomores here today, not only for Lassiter, but also Sequoia on the lack end, as you mentioned, as Jackson Hancock there with the first touchdown carry for the Chiefs.
And Ben Sanders was going to be one-on-one with him, and it looked like he might have not had the best angle to get to it, but looking out there, look at Isaiah Sanders for the Sequoia Chiefs, big number 7.
Yeah.
That boy's got a lot of size on him.
Oh, yeah.
Clogging up the middle, hitting that A-gap for the Sequoia Chiefs. That's probably why he's shutting down the run game.
And one thing you're going to have to watch is you're going to have to watch the corners for Sequoia. They lost a lot of talent as well on the back end. That's why you're kind of seeing Traynor out there to fill that hole that Jack Blackman left as well. As pre-snap there, going to try pretty much the same exact route, and it was caught and dropped there as Ben Sanders was out there in coverage, as you mentioned on the last time. Sanders is one of those guys that was starting last year, opposite of, as we mentioned, Jack Blackman in the slot there and a couple of other defensive backs that rotated in and out.
So Shaw Mixon drops that one to bring up 3rd and long. So Sequoia's defense has come to play after that early mishap on the first drive of the game.
Good old-fashioned huddles and claps here, something you won't see normally. You will see that spread offense a lot. That's why Sequoia is a little bit refreshing to watch, because that wing tee is so old-fashioned, 3 yards in a cloud of dust style of football. obvious passing situation. Sequoia only rushing 3, and if it would have stayed in bounds, it would have been easily intercepted out there, as it was Ridley Joseph out there in coverage. He's a junior this year, will be, but instead falls harmlessly to the turf, 4th and long here.
Luke O'Malley, that big tight end, the junior, was the intended receiver on that one, but clearly just overthrown by Bryson Harrison.
And you kind of expect that a little bit. As we mentioned, they haven't had the opportunity really to get in touch with their routes. You're going to see a little bit, a lot of it is timing, especially for Sequoia as they run those shorter routes. There's less of an option for your receivers to get it. As back to punt. A spiraling kick here, and it'll be fielded by Matthew Traynor. And that's where the Chiefs will take over at the 40-yard line.
So it looks like they're going to spot him at the 41-yard line. Let's see if Sequoia can carry that momentum into their 3rd offensive series. 7-7 here in the first quarter of play at Skip Pope Memorial Stadium as the sun about to set over the Performing Arts Center at Sequoia High School. Will, how you doing over there?
I'm good, and Chase, I think something to notice is that some good news for the Sequoia defense. I mean, you saw in that last drive, they were starting to read those Lassiter plays a lot earlier and able to stop them and crack down on them really before they were able to get going. And, I mean, even you saw Ridley Joseph with some good coverage and Ben Sanders as well. So definitely some good news for the Chiefs defense.
Especially a good point when you're playing so many spread teams like you'll see Sequoia face this year.
Motion to the near side of the field. Handoff up the middle for Peyton Lucas again, churning those legs, but down he goes as his knees hit the turf after a pickup of 3 yards. And that will bring up 2nd and 7 for the Chiefs as they creep closer to that 45-yard line. The ball's going to be spotted at the 43.
You know, Lucas, as I said, one of those guys with a lot of speed. So, I mean, if he gets real estate, he's going to be able to blow right past him. So Lassiter's really going to want to be careful with him.
Cameron Massey, the receiver, out wide, ball on the far hash. They're going to hand this one off. Coming up and finding some nice real estate as he crosses midfield is going to be Carter Sant. And he'll move the sticks for a Sequoia first down as they are now in Lassiter territory as the ball spotted on the 49-yard line. Still 7-7 here at Sequoia High School. Lassiter striking first with an 80-yard touchdown run on their first offensive play of the game. And then Sequoia on their first offensive possession threw a touchdown, threw an interception on the second play. Sequoia came back, marched down the field, and scored a touchdown after holding the Lassiter offense off the turnover. Sequoia snaps the ball. This one's going to be handed off to Lucas. Nice stiff arm there, but he's pulled down by the horse collar after a pickup of 3. So Peyton Lucas getting some big-time yards as he seems to be a hard runner here in the early portion of the spring game.
Kaiser Kaja, the senior, on the tackle there for Lassiter. And as you look on your screen there, notice how much size that Lassiter has up front. They're right now running a 3-man front, but those are some big guys there in the front as you see the Sequoia offensive line take their stance there. So one thing to note is that if you don't have a lot of success running the ball throughout the game, just keep in mind that is a huge front 3 there.
Pressure being shown now by Lassiter. Handoff going to the far side of the field. Headed to the sideline now, picking up the first down. Did he get it? They're going to say he did, and he stayed in bounds. That was a big run by Ben Sanders. So Ben Sanders and Carter Sant, some guys we usually see in that defensive back 7, getting some reps here at wing back for the Sequoia Chiefs. And I believe that is the end of the first quarter.
Hey, and that's good enough for another Chiefs first down.
Correction, no it's not. We had an official signaling, but they're going to keep the clock running.
And a little bit of poetic justice. That was Jaheim Murray on the tackle. So a running back tackling a running back, and also a defensive back tackling a defensive back.
Traynor, one wing back, now going in motion, going to be Sanders again. He fakes the handoff, rolls. He's got a lot of pressure, takes a big hit, gets rid of the football somehow, falls harmlessly to the ground at the 21-yard line as Traynor had 2 Lassiter Trojans draped all over him and was somehow able to get rid of the football.
Yeah, that's going to be a coaching moment, though. That's one of those where you almost just say, hey, man, you know, if you can get it out of bounds, that's great. But if not, sometimes it's okay. You just got to limit the damage there because that was thrown just up there in the air for anybody to grab.
Yeah, most definitely. And, I mean, thank goodness Traynor was able to hold him off and not get the ball intercepted. Definitely dangerous situation, but glad we were able to salvage it there.
Would have been a huge loss for the Chiefs. Instead, a 2nd and 10 coming up on the 39-yard line. Sequoia in Lassiter territory. Motion comes to the near side of the field. Bobble, a mishandled handoff is going to result in a 3-yard loss. So Sequoia staring down a 3rd and 12 situation. after the handoff to Carter Sant was mishandled a little bit, and that gave Lassiter time to get in the backfield and blow that play up.
That's big Ethan McKinney, as we mentioned, working both sides of the field tonight. As he's got an offer from Liberty, and you see he's got, just as much as he's good in protection, he's also got a little bit of gas to get after him.
And we'll get our first time out of the evening as Coach Sean Thom wants to talk about it with his Trojans. So we'll come back over here, guys. First impressions of this Sequoia Chiefs team with what we've seen so far here in the spring game.
Yeah, you like what you see, right? I mean, Lassiter is really big up front. Like I mentioned, you're going to kind of expect to see a little bit of cobwebs, especially with the wing T offense. It's a lot of precision, a lot of pre-snap counts. The upper side of the ball for the Chiefs here, the defense has a little bit to be desired, obviously giving up the 80-yard first time rushing touchdown, but also as they move forward, they did a really good job hammering things down after that. So you kind of write that one off, say, hey, look, coaching moment, to stay home, keep your lanes and keep your gaps, and then moving forward, things should look pretty good.
Yeah, and as you said, we are just brushing off the dust so far, shaking off those cobwebs. But, I mean, feels like we can't say his name often enough. But Matthew Traynor, Bryce, he's just been a force. He's been catching punt returns. He's been running all the way down the field. There's really just nothing he can't do, and we really need a guy like that to just lead the team in every aspect of the game, and he's done that so far here tonight.
3rd and long situation coming up for said Traynor as we got a Trojan hustling on the field here at the last minute. Traynor under center, wing back motion to the near side, stutter step, now cuts back inside and it's not there. Sequoia just playing it safe as that maybe loses a yard or gets back to the original line of scrimmage. So 4th and long coming up for the Chiefs. We'll see that punt unit come out for Sequoia for the first time this evening. And we talked a lot about the size of Lassiter's defensive line, but fellas, that's a beefy Sequoia offensive line. Last couple of years they've had some they've been wrecked by injuries, but you got some pretty big guys out there tonight. Looking at the center, number 78, it's going to be Jackson Newman. But they look more than capable of matching up one-on-one with these guys. Correction, Newman's going to be the long snapper as the punt team's out on the field, but Sequoia doing a great job of matching up at the line of scrimmage for these run plays. And a good punt. That one's on its way, and it's going to be a touchback as it hits at the 1-yard line and then takes a friendly roll all the way back towards the triple jump. So Lassiter going to take over inside their own territory. Sequoia looked like they were on a mission, but Lassiter was able to get some pressure in the backfield and disrupt Matthew Traynor's rhythm.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that, one of the knocks on triple option wing T teams is that you typically don't have those guys that can pass block because you want the guys that are kind of doing the chop blocks and things like that, trying to get some chip blocking as well. So pass protection is a little bit difficult when you run 80-90% of the time. You don't work on your pass protection. And that's what we talk about a lot is big play ability. River Ridge, Creekview, the other teams in the region as well, they really have that home run ability where they can hit the long ball, get you for an 80-yard gain there. But Sequoia really doesn't have that opportunity. It's really kind of 5 yards, and 10 yards is a big play for Sequoia as Lassiter takes over. And that's a bumbled snap, and it'll be a rush for the ball. I believe that it was recovered once again, and that'll be the call by Jaheim Murray there as he was in motion and butted heads with Bryson Harrison.
Huge loss on the bad snap, so a 2nd and long coming up for the Lassiter Trojans. Looking at this Lassiter schedule from last year, Lassiter definitely had the ability when they wanted to score some points. They scored 30 against South Cobb, scored 19 and 21 against River Ridge and Lambert. No teams to shake your nose at, but sometimes they just got flat shut out. So It looks like they can hit that home run ball, but sometimes they stutter on getting that rhythm going.
And the big one is Osborne. They scored 59 on Osborne. That was really the big one. And, a lot of people know that Osborne's kind of been in a rebuilding phase here, and that's rough. But that's where a lot of that 17 points per game average came from, unfortunately, for Lassiter. Just didn't have the consistency of yardage they could gain, as it looked like a pre-snap penalty, but they're going to let it go. As a big catch, but a great hit there out on the outside by number 9. I believe that was Avery Bourne on the hit.
Tackle made by number 2, Jackson.
Big hit by Jackson Hancock, number 2. He's a man of all trades as he has been running the ball, has a touchdown already, and a big smack right there to hit the receiver out of bounds. So Jackson Hancock doing a fantastic job. A big loss, and I think that's going to be the end of the first quarter. So your score here from Skip Pope Memorial Stadium, the Sequoia Chiefs and the Lassiter Trojans all tied up at 1 apiece. Guys, it looks like Sequoia found a rhythm. They got stopped there on the last one, but I think that had more to do with one bad play, just stalling the drive out. But it looks like Sequoia's defense came to play, and it looks like the offense is going to find their rhythm, and hopefully they can hold on to that going into the fall.
Right, and I think that's the big thing, right, is that an important thing to note is spring practice started May 6th. So we're talking about guys that have been practicing for 10 days right now. You know, if you're doing weekends, and most of the time they aren't in spring. So these guys really are just getting introduced to the offense. They're just figuring out who they are, trying to get a team identity. You know, the team captains out there today are kind of those preseason team captains that as you get into the summer months, you're going to find out who those guys really are. So moving forward, you know, keep in mind, as we mentioned, it's a spring game. Of course, you want to watch because it's kind of going to tell you who's doing what and what you kind of can expect in the summer months, because they're going to try and use this tape as coaching moments for at least the next month until they really start to implement their own game plan.
So,
yeah, and even then, Will, I mean, you think about it, a lot of these guys are being brought up from the freshman teams of last year and as well as JV teams. So, I mean, some of these guys, this is their first ever, like, varsity experience. So, I mean, you just have to consider that when you're watching this as well. But, I mean, there's been a lot of freshmen who've really stepped up, especially Jackson Hancock as well as Brady Curl with a couple of tackles as well. So, I mean, I think so far they've really been showing their stuff.
Guys, who here's the student section?
Hey, student section's here, guys, as we are as well. We want to thank everybody for tuning in on a beautiful Friday night here in Canton, Georgia. Skip Pope Stadium, one of the nicest stadiums here, as you see the brand new turf out here. Reports of some upgrades going on as well, as we'll keep you updated on that throughout the year. So hopefully by fall things will look a little different here. As that's Bryson back to pass, floats it over the middle. Matthew Traynor was in the area, as well as Hancock as well. Falls harmlessly to the turf, as that brings up 4th and long here for the Trojans, as they'll bring on the punt team.
Yeah, pass intended for Parker Helmley. Bryson having a hard time getting in a rhythm here tonight. He hasn't done very well. I think he completed one pass so far, but that one pass was negated by a penalty. So he's having hopefully as the game progresses, we'll see him get a little bit more into his rhythm, but definitely struggling a little bit here in the first half.
Well, two teams that are run first, that's for sure. As we mentioned, you know, only attempted 79 passes last year, as he was the starting quarterback. So really running first, as well as Sequoia doing the same, as Traynor attempted 100.
So Hancock going to fair catch that one at the 48-yard line. Sequoia going to take over at the logo as we're in the infancy of the second quarter of play, as the sun still trying to settle behind the Sequoia Performing Arts Center. Lights starting to kick on here at Skip Pope Stadium. That coolness in the air definitely has a fall feel to it. What do you think over there, Will?
I think it absolutely does. The only thing we're missing is the band. We got the student section showing up tonight. We got the parents, the relatives, the fans. It's almost all there.
So Sequoia comes back out to start their first offensive series of the second quarter. Traynor flanked by two wingbacks. Sanders in motion. He's going to pitch it over to him. Sanders headed for the far sideline. Got a lot of space. Picks up the first down, and maybe two more after that as he's run out of bounds into the Lassiter sideline. So Sequoia now inside Lassiter territory. Let's see where they mark the ball. They're going to mark it right at the 41-yard line. So a big run there by Sanders moves the sticks for the Sequoia Chiefs, as they're all tied up 7-7 here in the early part of the second quarter.
And Chase, that's the second big run you've seen Sanders do. I mean, you saw in the last drive he had one of those as well. So it's been one of those guys that's been showing up offensively and defensively tonight.
And it was the same play Jackson Hancock scored a touchdown on. Here comes Peyton Lucas again. Stiff arm, hanging on for dear life as the defender. There goes Lucas. One man to beat. Let's see what he does, and he's going to go into the end zone. No, they're going to mark him out at the 1-yard line. A big run like that, he deserves to get the touchdown, but they're going to mark him just shy. Grown man run by Peyton Lucas. We saw a little bit of a stiff arm, churning the legs as he had a defender hanging off of him. So a big run there for Peyton Lucas puts Sequoia at the 1-yard line.
Yeah, and Lucas is one of those guys we mentioned. You're going to have to rely on him a lot. We saw him a little bit last year, about 100 carries, a couple hundred yards, and he's one of those guys that one thing that I'm really liking to see here, Sequoia has a lot of speed on the outside. That's something that some years they haven't had. But right now, maybe it's because they're fresh, or maybe it's because they have picked up some of these other guys, Ben Sanders, and as we mentioned, you know, of course, there by Peyton. But, you know, as you move side to side, you want to see a little bit of speed, and it helps supplement inside game because wing T is all about that.
Ball spotted at the 2-yard line. Sequoia trying to punch this one in. Mishandled snap. Down goes Traynor. I think he got the ball back. Almost spells disaster after a big Peyton Lucas run. They're going to say Traynor fell back on it. So that's one of Sequoia's attempts. I think he might have fallen forward for 1 yard. So 2nd and goal coming up for the Chiefs.
See Damon Baker checking into the game for the Chiefs, junior wide receiver. So a couple different names here, calling them as we get set.
Lassiter stacking the box. Traynor Lucas behind him, motion to the far side of the field, going to hand off to Lucas, who rumbles ahead into the end zone for a Sequoia Chiefs touchdown. And a little extracurricular activities as Peyton Lucas gets up in the paint. And Sequoia takes their first lead of the night, 13-7, pending the extra point.
And, you know, with that almost touchdown run by Lucas, he just shows that physicality that he's been showing all night, really. He's been able to break off a few tackles as well as the stiff arm that you mentioned. So he's a good wide receiver to have because he can power through some of those big defenders.
So Lucas getting the fruits of his labor as he gets to punch that one in after a big run. You're going to get a false start call on the extra point, so we'll try that one again. It's a spring game, so I don't think they're going to move him back.
Not on special teams, Chase.
And the extra point goes up and through the upright. So Sequoia 14-7 lead here in the second quarter, and they have scored 14 unanswered points after the big strike by the Lassiter Trojans to start the game.
Yeah, good sign for Sequoia there, as we've seen a little bit of mix of everything, a little bit better passing game. Obviously, as we mentioned, the outside speed there. You love to see it for Sequoia, so a lot of promise here early. And, of course, you know, one of the things you want to remember is that some of these plays might look a little bad, and that's because a lot of them are going to be experimental plays. They're going to be trying to implement some new things, especially when you have a new defensive coordinator and Brent Buddy. So if you see some blown coverages or things like that, keep in mind they're trying to do a whole lot of different stuff this year. And on the other side of the ball, we've talked about the offense. They're going to try and open it up a little bit. You're going to see a little bit more of the passing. So if some of them don't look as crisp as they should, it's okay. It's spring.
And
yeah,
you know, you touched on this a little earlier. Sequoia having that speed on the outside, that's one of the big things that determines success on wing T football, is if you have speed to get to the outside.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, Will, that wing T sometimes takes a little bit to get started going on the year. They start out a little rusty and shaky, and again, as you said, they have been practicing for less than 10 days, so there's going to be a lot of experimental things, but this is why we have the spring game so that they can try them.
Ryan getting ready to kick this one away back over to the Trojans as they flip the field for the second quarter. Trojans now in the shadow of the big Chiefs scoreboard. And a good-looking kick as backpedaling into the end zone is going to be the receiver. They're going to let him take it out. Nope, they're going to blow that one dead and say it's a touchback. So we'll see that Lassiter Trojans offense one more time. Take it away, Coop.
Thank you, my good friend. We're set here once again. Jaheim Murray, the only guy that scored for the Lassiter Trojans, really kind of scuffled since that first opening run. Since then, tried a couple of passes, hadn't really worked out for him here. As we mentioned, a run-first team for the Trojans. We'd like to see him, as we've seen, they're kind of trying to follow Ethan McKinney, as we mentioned, that big left tackle out there, as he's got an offer from Liberty, as you mentioned in the pregame chase. So you're going to try and see them follow that up. Might want to see them spread it out a little bit, some slants, some high completion percentages, as they open it up with 4 wide. Sequoia now with 4 down. The linebacker creeping into the box. Bootleg. And dumped to the outside. Hard to see if they completed it, and they did. That pass completed to number 88, Parker Hemley. He is a senior athlete listed on the depth chart there. So a gain of about 4.
Good confidence booster there for Bryson Harrison to kind of get a completion under his belt, get the ball moving, and let's see if he can continue to get in that rhythm. Second and medium coming up for the Lassiter Trojans.
Good old-fashioned huddle. Still don't have the pre-snap hand motions or anything done with the coordinators. That comes in normally in June is when you see them start to implement that kind of thing as they get into some simulations. Of course, the season begins August the 20th. As this is another high pass floated way outside. That pass intended out on the flaw for Shaw Mixon, a sophomore once again for Lassiter, but just a little bit of a floater out there. 3rd and 6.
Bring up 3rd down.
Yeah, that one just flat overthrown by Bryson Harrison.
Hey, let's get loud, Chief fans.
It's one of those things when you throw an outside route, you want to kind of float it in there. Inside route, you really got to gun it. But, of course, you don't want to float it too much or gun it too much Too little touch, can't catch it. Too much float, goes out of bounds.
So the shadow has fallen over the field here at Skip Pope Memorial Stadium, but it is definitely not fallen over the booth as we're squinting a little bit to try and see all the action. Take it away, Coop.
Got about 5 minutes left till the sun goes down here. 3 wide, 1 tight end, 1 running back. And it's going to be a handoff to that side, and he's hit in the middle and hard by a group of Chiefs. Holy cow. A group of them there really can give credit to a few of them. Ty Moore's one of the first guys in there as well, one of the defensive ends you'll see take the place of Hood while he's injured. Of course, you got to mention Avery Bourne there on the other side as well. So a good tackle there, and it'll bring up 4th and 6.
Yeah, Jaheim Murray tried to do the jump cut there, and as soon as he left his feet, the Sequoia Chiefs wrapped him up and then drug him to the ground. A great overall team tackling effort there by Sequoia to force the 4th down.
Punting team back. Standard punting team, 2 gunners, 3 in the back for protection. Of course, no blitz here in the spring game. Once again, another spiraling kick. Pretty good punt. And that one fielded and caught. Not this time by Matthew Traynor, but Jackson Hancock really kind of the hero so far in this one, seen him on defense and offense and special teams as well.
So Sequoia going to take over at the 30-yard line as they lead the Lassiter Trojans 14-7. A little bit of an update for you Sequoia fans. During halftime, we're going to talk a little bit about the high school girls track team. Coach Mann not here tonight helping us with the broadcast as he and his girls are at Carrollton High School competing in the state track and field championships. So we wish them the best and hope they're enjoying the broadcast here tonight from Skip Pope Memorial Stadium. We'll update you on that during halftime. But back to the matter at hand, rumbling ahead for the Sequoia Chiefs, getting a pickup of what looks like 6 yards. And didn't catch the number on the ball carrier. I think that's number 34 for Sequoia.
Run by number 34, Rowan Steele.
And
Bring up 2nd down.
that is going to be Rowan Steele, one of the younger players for the Sequoia Chiefs team.
Mentioned he had a tackle earlier in the game. One of those names, you like a last name like Steele in your guys.
Traynor under center, 1 wide receiver out to the far side of the field. Correction, on the near side of the field. Traynor going to find him. Nice catch. 1 man to beat. Going to cut inside. And wrapped up and dragged down after a big gain at the 48-yard line. So a fantastic job by the senior wide receiver, Josh Price, to corral that one and move the chains. Sequoia right on top of the logo, looking to flip the field here on the Lassiter Trojans in the 2nd quarter.
One of those good things you want to see from Sequoia as well. A quick pass, one of those that you can call on 2nd and 8 to kind of pick up some of those quick chunk yardage and get it to 3rd and manageable. For Sequoia to feel comfortable on 3rd down, you'd like them to be sub 5 yards. It keeps it from being a passing situation. You feel like they can run it.
Dropping back is Traynor rolling out across his body, fires another strike to Peyton Lucas. It's only a 2-yard gain, but Traynor's really good throwing across his body. We saw it several times last year, particularly in that Cambridge game, that game-winning throw to Jaden Mitchell. But he really doesn't struggle with that as much. It seems to be one of the things that makes him a weapon here for the Sequoia offense.
He's probably one of the most talented quarterbacks in the county, you know, and that's you got a lot of names in Cherokee County. Carson Latham at River Ridge, A.J. Swan committed to Maryland at Cherokee. But I would say he's probably top 2 or 3 there in the mix with those guys. You just don't see him featured a lot because of the offense. But when you can do that, it really opens up the wing tee.
Ball at midfield, handoff up the middle, big collision after a gain of 1 yard. Looks like they're going to maybe give him 2, but 3rd and medium coming up as the running back and the Mike linebacker had a meeting of the minds right as he went across the line of scrimmage. So 3rd and medium coming up. See what Sequoia decides to do here as checking in is going to be Jackson Hancock.
Got to feel like the ball's going to him on 3rd and long. And as we mentioned, you know, it's not 3rd and 5. It's just outside of that zone where you feel like you're comfortable running it. But if you have speed on the outside, then it opens up the play calling ability.
Hancock takes the pitch, loses his towel, tries to bounce to the outside. It's not there. And a big tackle by number 88 for Lassiter. That's going to be Parker Helmley. We've said his name a couple times tonight. And he forces the big stop for the Sequoia, or for the Lassiter defense.
Yeah, and as we mentioned there, brings up 3rd and really just about 6 here. So kind of that same situation where in the middle you have that speed on the outside. You feel comfortable with it. 4th down as the dial marker changes. See if they try and do a hard count or if they're actually going to run a play.
So Sequoia showing faith in the defense, and now we've got a timeout called, and it looks like Lassiter going to take their second timeout of the half. So 4th and medium, Sequoia came out showing something a little different, and Lassiter wants to talk about it as they'll retreat to their sidelines. Guys, real quick before we get into some analysis, according to Coach Mann, the girls track and field team, multiple school records have fallen, and they've got a handful of girls in the finals tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm in Coach Mann's class, and he's talking about that all the time, how many records are falling day after day. So it's good to see that improvement.
And the Sequoia 4x1 relay team got a 6th place finish today. We'll have more on that at halftime. But, Will, how about you go ahead and give us some ad reads right quick as we thank some of our sponsors.
Absolutely, Chase. At the Ultimate Chief level, we have Riverstone Homes and Graphics, Pride Electric, All About Health, Innovative Properties Group. At the Tribe level, we have Property Masters, Ready Mix USA, the Geiger Group. Concession stand, we have Alpha Insurance and Credit Union of Georgia.
So Sequoia going to try their 4th down play here. As we come out of the timeout, the offense still on the field. Tight end shifts to the near side. Ball on the 48-yard line. Traynor rolls out across his body. Once again, he's going to take it and run. He's going to pick up the first down, dragged down by the horse collar. Ooh, a scary-looking tackle in a spring game, but Traynor bounces right back up as he picks up 1 more yard than needed to move the chains. So a big 4th down conversion there for the Sequoia Chiefs to keep the drive alive.
And that's what you need out of a wing T quarterback, is somebody that can make things happen when they don't happen, because, you know, he's a big play player, and in an offense that doesn't focus so heavily on the big play ability, it is important to have those guys. As we mentioned, you know, kind of making a baseball analysis, since it is spring, you got to have those home run hitters in the lineup that can kind of keep the defense honest for a football team, and that's exactly what Traynor is. You can't just cheat 8 guys in the box and assume that he can't beat you on the outside. And at the speed of some of these guys like Hancock, it really kind of develops a balanced offense.
Handoff up the middle goes nowhere as Lucas goes down. And Jackson Hancock gets a parting shot from the Lassiter Trojan, and now we've got some pushing and shoving here in the backfield as we got a Lassiter Trojan who's really far from home, who finds his way back over to the right side of the football after no gain.
Well, it's good to see that there's no love lost here in a spring game. As it's number 21, we don't have him listed on the roster.
Just got to love some good old-fashioned competitiveness. Nothing wrong with that. Coming back to the line of scrimmage, wide receiver lining up for the Chiefs. Going to be the senior Ashton Hunt. First time we've said his name tonight. Under center, Sanders going to move to the far side, fakes the handoff again. Nice pitch and catch over there. And this is going to be a big pickup for Sequoia. Nice block by Jackson Hancock, and drug down at the 9-yard line is going to be the Sequoia running back Asante Chimanda, the junior fullback for the Chiefs. Big catch and run to get this one into the Lassiter red zone. So Sequoia looking for an opportunity to break this one open here in the later part of the first half of the ball game.
We got a Trojan down. That's number 21, as we mentioned, a little fired up on the last play. Looks like a cramp from what we can see here, just trying to stretch out that leg there. So it doesn't look too serious, thankfully. But as you mentioned, a beautiful block out there in space by Hancock.
Not only that, Will, but you also saw that cross-body motion again from Traynor, and just that physicality that he's been showing all night.
He is so lethal throwing across his body. That is an aspect of his game that he has done a fantastic job of developing, and we still get to see it for 2 more falls here at the flat at Sequoia High School. So Sequoia inside the red zone looking to strike and make this one a 2-touchdown game. A big 4th down conversion responsible for that, as Matthew Traynor used his legs to pick up about 7 yards. As we see the young fans over on the visiting side throwing the football and rolling down the hill.
Down the hill there.
As we get a little crispness in the air as that sun starts to set behind the high school. It really does feel like fall here tonight.
It's quite nice, to be honest with you. You know, it's one of those weird winters, you know, and I know you guys are from out of town, so to speak, but here in the South we like to call it blackberry winter when you get a little cold snap here in May. Normally late April, early May is when you see it, but this is a little bit late for blackberry winter. Seems like some unseasonably cool temperatures, but I don't see anybody complaining here. Hoodie weather, which a lot of people are begging for by the time September rolls around and we get started here in the dog days of the football season. So really kind of setting the tone here as fans are back. Student section, as you mentioned, the kids up there on the hill, good to see here at Skip Pope.
Excellent analysis of Blackberry Winter by the only person of this broadcast team who's not a carpetbagging Yankee. Matthew Traynor settles in under center. Let's see if Sequoia can convert. Handoff to Peyton Lucas. Rumbles ahead, but maybe got 2 or 3 yards off that one. Let's see what they give him. They're going to walk off 2 yards.
Run by number 6, Peyton Lucas picks up a
So second
brings
and
up
goal
second
for the
down
Chiefs. 14-7 currently your score here from Skip Pope Stadium at Sequoia High School. We want to thank you for joining us here on ChiefsTV.org. We will be your flagship for all of the Sequoia Chiefs broadcasts coming up in the fall. Traynor under center. Fakes that handoff. Nice pass, and Peyton Lucas walks into the end zone for the touchdown. Fantastic pass there by Traynor, once again going across his body and finding Peyton Lucas to put Sequoia up by 2 touchdowns.
And that wasn't so much about the athletic play. That was about the smart play. You saw him. He could have gunned it right in there, and that's what a lot of guys would do, nervous. But he's shown a lot of maturity there by floating that in, saw the coverage was back, gave his guy time, and led him beautifully, as that is a perfect pitch and catch.
PAT is up through the upright, so 21-7 your score after a big drive by the Sequoia Chiefs, anchored by a big 4th down conversion by Matthew Traynor and capped off by the Peyton Lucas touchdown reception inside the Lassiter red zone.
And, Will, as you were saying, with that just crossbody lob right to Peyton Lucas, we've seen that a couple times already, and sometimes that's all you need. You don't need a big running play from a guy or a big passing play. Just a little lob pass is all you need.
And that's an excellent point. Another thing that we're seeing about Matthew Traynor, even though he's going to be a junior this fall, was a sophomore last year, you notice he put some touch on that pass. He didn't fire it in there. He didn't shotgun that one right into Peyton Lucas. He realized he had the maturity and the growth as a quarterback to know that a simple little touch pass would get him all the way home.
And really good job as well. You know that guy coming out of the backfield is not a wide receiver, going to take a lot of handoffs and things like that. So surefire way to make sure your guy can just kind of take it and run with it. As I mentioned, the lead was perfect. And that's something you see a lot of guys have to do, is to get that touch pass, they have to really gun it in there to lead their guy. There's something about the mental block between being able to throw it to a point and speed, and he does a really good job of just being able to lay it in there, which is why he's one of the top talented quarterbacks in Cherokee County.
You mentioned that. That's got me really looking forward to Sequoia's game coming up against Cherokee this year, as A.J. Swan and company is going to come into the flat here at Sequoia High School, and we'll get to see those 2 quarterbacks duel it out here in the fall.
And we'll preview that at the halftime show, so make sure you stick with us, because we're going to talk a lot about those other Cherokee County teams and kind of get you set for the things that you can expect to see from Sequoia's opponents, as they'll be facing a good bit of out-of-region opponents within Cherokee County.
Ryan boots this one. It's a short kick taken at the 9-yard line, and they're going to blow the whistle on special teams. So for the most part, Ryan had been kicking touchbacks. That was the first one that he's kind of left hanging a little bit. And the Lassiter offense will come back out on the field, and we'll throw it over to Will Cooper for the play-by-play.
Thank you, my good friend. As the sun has finally set, sunglasses come off. Everybody can see clearly. A couple people donning their hoodies here in the late afternoon. Beautiful Friday night, as we keep alluding to. It's nice to see concession stands back open. Of course, that was a luxury that we were not afforded at the beginning of last year. You were pretty much resided to the pregame meal, which most people know about me. I can put down a pregame meal just as good as I can a postgame meal. Chase knows what I'm talking about.
Likewise.
As you'll see the Trojans run out here once again. Spread formation, as you're going to get used to seeing. Really like the idea of Buddy as a defense running a 3-4, very suitable to Region 7, 6A.
Watch Traynor cheating up.
Out of the back.
Oh, my goodness!
Wow, what a hit. Ooh, and that is going to take a minute for him to recover from that. And I believe they threw a flag. I thought it was a pretty clean hit over there. As credit where credit's due, that was Ridley Joseph coming over to make the hit. But holy cow.
By number 2, Jackson Hancock.
That was Hancock that came over.
I don't believe that's true. I think that that was the defensive back, Ridley Joseph, on the tackle there.
Yeah, they were giving number 3 all the
Yeah, I believe that was
all the love and affection.
Wanted to make sure I got that call right. So, but the only argument you can make is he did lower the crown of the helmet into the chest. Like to see him keep his head up there. That's something that Buddy will work on, but you can see kind of that hard-hitting mentality.
Sheesh, what a hit.
A little bit of murmuring in the crowd now as everybody's getting their energy here. They're going to try that again, and you see him cover up pretty quick there. But nonetheless, completed pass over the middle, gain of about 4, 3rd and 6.
Will, one of the things that I'm really liking that I see here with this Sequoia Chiefs defense is that mentality and that attitude. They are here to feast. Every time the ball carrier, every time somebody has the ball, they're rushing to that ball. I heard them in spring practice. Every time somebody has the ball, they're telling everybody to get over there. They're telling people where the ball is. They're communicating, and they're running downhill to get to the ball. I love this hard-hitting mentality that we're seeing out of Coach Bud's new defense for the Sequoia Chiefs.
Well, you say that, David Daniel was really the prime example of that. Was just a laboring guy, just really laying the lumber on everybody he could find. And Brent Buddy was a perfect example of that, as he was the head coach over there at Woodstock as well. But one of the big things as well is that they're coming from a region that is so full, as that's a false start there on number 72 for Lassiter. That's Alejandro Gonzalez playing left guard. But to finish the point, one of the things that you want to see from your defense is that running around, running downhill, so to speak. But they get that really from the idea that you have to attack, because in Region 7-6A, coming from Region 6-6A, is you're kind of running out of those guys that have played in that region, so from now on. But they bring that physicality in, and that huge offensive line in, as we've seen from, as you mentioned, kind of having the big offensive line. But you want to see that physicality coming in, because Region 7-6A is full of spread.
To our producer, I hope they cut the highlight film of that hit, as this Sequoia Chiefs defense coming out with an attitude.
3 wide, running back, 1 tight end. Showing blitz off the corner, unabated to the quarterback, makes a man miss, way out there, and intercepted! What an interception out there by Hancock. One-handed and laid it in there. Additional pressure was brought by Rowan Steele. 3rd time we've called his name tonight, as you see the quarterback and wide receiver having a meeting of minds over there for Lassiter. But what an interception out there by Hancock, making a strong case for player of the game with a touchdown and interception to boot now.
Yeah, and Will, that was just a very heads-up play by the soon-to-be sophomore. I mean, he was a couple steps away when that ball was thrown, but he was really just able, he dove for it, and he was just able to get on top of it. Great play.
Fantastic game so far by Jackson Hancock. And a big pick there as he laid out to get that one. Bobbled it a little bit, but was able to corral that one. So we'll see this Sequoia Chiefs offense come back out on the field, leading 21-7 in the first half of this spring game, as it has been all Chiefs except for a quick strike by Lassiter on their first offensive play of the game. Pitch to the outside, spin move, no go, as they'll pick up about 2 or 3 yards on the run by Carter Sant.
Hear the reaction from the guys watching the tape down there under the 10 as you hear the oohs coming out. And that's the coaching moment right there that Buddy's going to tell them is, you got to keep the head up. You want to see what you're hitting, because the crown of the helmet there will draw the 15-yard penalty every time. But still, nonetheless, you've got to respect the idea and the fire coming out for a spring game. Hope it translates to fall, of course.
And we talked about that with Coach Teeter, who's going to take his first time out of the evening. We talked to him about that as I got a chance to interview him earlier in the week during spring practice. He said one of the things they've really been stressing to these guys is to carry that momentum over into the fall season that they had at the tail end of last year, where they went on a 4-1 run to close out the year.
Yeah, Ashkin Hunt was the reason for the timeout there, as he was having a little bit of substitution issues. But you're exactly right. Played a lot of talented teams. Of course, Cambridge, as we mentioned, Chattahoochee, as we mentioned. And, towards the end, the only loss they had was against River Ridge, which everybody knows how good River Ridge was by the end of the season. But you got to feel like coming out here, Sequoia is a little bit of a different look. The offense is still the same style, but we're seeing them open up a little bit more. And the defense we see is much improved with getting to the ball. And that 3-4 really plays well against the spread teams.
And as good as River Ridge was last year, it's going to be really exciting to see that preseason scrimmage in the fall between River Ridge and Cherokee.
The WLJ Bowl.
The WLJ Bowl. A lot of bragging rights at stake after the year both of those teams had last year. Will, I'd be interested to hear your take on that one.
Oh, boy. Quick recap. We did power rankings. Cherokee won, River Ridge 2. River Ridge wasn't happy about it. I think River Ridge is extremely talented. Obviously, Sequoia knows that. Sequoia will also face Cherokee. I'll let Chase finish this play, and I'll get back to you on that.
You'll get to see all the Cherokee County teams take on Sequoia this year, as we'll even get Etowah in the preseason scrimmage. Traynor in the shotgun, drops back to pass. Let's see what he's got. Pressure flushed out of the pocket. Going to have to take off, and he'll pick up the first down, cuts back to the inside, and he's still on his feet, making everybody miss. Even himself, he crosses up, and down he goes after a big run at the 26-yard line. They'll spot him. So Matthew Traynor breaking everyone's ankles up to and including his own. And Sequoia will take over deep inside Lassiter territory.
You got to love it. You got to love the mobility. To finish that point, Cherokee River Ridge, just really quick. Both of them are extremely talented. Everybody knows coming into this season they're probably the two best teams in Cherokee County. A.J. Swan committed to Maryland. Darius Harshaw picking up offers every day. Aiden Moore transferring over there. Everybody at Sequoia knows how valuable he is. And Keith Adams Jr., three-star running back, offers all over the place, including Clemson as well. And then the other side of that coin is River Ridge doesn't have that guy, but they do have Amir Morrison, which is a guy that's really flown under the radar. Just a touch under 2,000 yards last year. Probably going to hit that mark this year. Carson Latham's great. They're losing a lot of talent on the defense, losing about 11 starters in all, and 3 of them on the offensive line. So you're going to see a lot of replacing over there. But you got to feel like Coach Collins has a really strong program over there. That preseason game is not going to be a preseason game. It's going to be a lot of pride because there was a lot of trash talking going on.
You heard it here first, folks. 91-90, you're going to be your score in the preseason tilt between Cherokee and River Ridge as we come back out of the timeout. Sequoia getting under center. We just saw Traynor in the shotgun, which is not something we're used to seeing unless Sequoia's down big. Traynor again across his body. That's the first one that he hasn't connected on, throwing across his body here tonight, and that'll bring up 2nd and 10 from the 26-yard line.
And, going back to that first down play, Traynor took that outside lane, and we've seen Sequoia runners take that lane a lot, and they've been able to have a lot of success with it. I mean, you even saw Traynor coming all the way across the field, so they've really been able to find those gaps and exploit them.
Traynor getting the play from Coach Teeter. He'll trot back out to the huddle.
One important thing to note with how shifty Traynor is you've ever seen him take a big hit? Because I haven't, and I think that's important, is even there on that pass. It was incomplete, but you saw he was standing up at the end of it, and that's one of those things that for a running quarterback is really important to keep his accuracy. Is there's another shotgun.
Shotgun alert for the Sequoia Chiefs, dropping back to pass. 2 wide receivers to the near side of the field. Traynor finds his target. Oh, and it's dropped. It is dropped by number 34, and that is Rowan Steele, who that one hit him right in the belly button, and he just couldn't come up with that one. Would have been a big gain for the Sequoia Chiefs. Instead, it's 3rd and 10 at the 26-yard line.
Javen Salazar is the fullback there in the shotgun formation. Kind of an interesting note there, as we haven't seen him really in the wing T formation, a sophomore fullback listed there.
So Sequoia having a chat session here. Here comes the team back out of the huddle that was happening right in front of the Chiefs sideline. Still 21-7 here at Skip Pope Memorial Stadium. Sequoia looking to make it a 3-touchdown game, but they've got 3rd and long coming up, playing a lot of shotgun right now. And we've got another whistle.
Delay a game there from the huddle.
And Sequoia used way too much of their clock, of the play clock, so they'll go back, and 3rd and 10 now becomes 3rd and 15.
You got to really enjoy seeing some different looks here, and you got to wonder also, we don't want to get too much into it, but the coaching aspects of, getting another former head coach in the room like Buddy, you have to wonder, okay, Buddy had a lot of success in the playoffs, 2017, 2018. You wonder if he got in his ear and said, hey, man, what do you see in our offense that we could introduce? And maybe some shotgun formations help as well.
Ball in the near hash, 2 wide receivers out to the far side. Traynor flushed out of the pocket. He's going to have to take off and run with it, and he will go out of – no, he'll step back inside, and Traynor showing that shiftiness and elusiveness going all the way down to the 4-yard line. Thought Lassiter had him dead to rights. A little fancy footwork, and Traynor has the Sequoia Chiefs offense back in business well inside the red zone. Ball going to be spotted on the 5-yard line. So 1st and goal for the Chiefs, 21-7 with a few moments left to go here in the first half.
And, Traynor shaking off as many as 5 or 6 guys right there. And just like Peyton Lucas showing off that physical ability to just shake off those defenders, which is such a key, especially when you're that close to the end zone like they just were.
So we got another timeout here on the field. Guys, Sequoia doing a great job here.
Yeah, they really are, and you're seeing them work on some things. Shotgun formation, me personally called football for Cherokee County as a whole since 2018. And one of the things that we talk about when we do rankings at WLJA, or one of the things that we talk about when we do the preseason shows and the podcasts and things like that, is that Sequoia normally misses that big playability. You know, even in 2018 when they had so much success in that year, you know, making it all the way to the Elite Eight, they still had issues. You know, Collier Paith was a great quarterback, but didn't have the home run ball nailed down. And it seems like with Traynor, you always have the opportunity. Even if there's a bobbled snap, you got to feel like if he just picks it up off the ground, they might gain 10 yards out of it. And then those quick design plays, as you're seeing there out of the shotgun formation, you got to feel like you really like his ability to scramble. And that could even open up some designed runs out of the shotgun if you wanted to.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Traynor's just able to think on his feet very well. I mean, you see even those with those little lob passes, and his ability to know when to run and when to not. It's a very good thing to want in a quarterback, and fortunately we have that.
Ashkin Hunt sneaking inside, the receiver out to the far side of the field. Ball in the near hash mark. Traynor under center, motion to the near side of the field. Hand off to Peyton Lucas. No, he's going to throw this one to the corner of the end zone. Caught and touchdown. What a fantastic throw by Matthew Traynor as he fires a strike to Ty Moores, the big tight end. So another passing touchdown for Matthew Traynor makes this one a 27-7 game.
And I tell you, that's the second passing touchdown from Sequoia. You've got to enjoy seeing that, as we mentioned.
But that one was through a window. There was a lot of defenders standing there, and he was able to push that one right through a very small space, extra point up, and good through the upright. So now we're at 28-7 as this one is all Sequoia in the first half.
So it's the two sides of Traynor, right? You got the opposite side on the out where he lobs it over there, easy pitch and catch, and then you've got the near side where you're firing it into a window, and you see him throw it on a rope, get it there, and in. And that's really the duality of him, right, is that he bootlegs to both sides. One was to the left, one is to the right. And on both of those plays, he's got a really good arm, and he's also got a lot of football intelligence to be able to decide how he needs to throw it and who he's throwing it to.
So we'll go ahead and take this opportunity to thank some of our sponsors. Will Hogendijk, take it away, bud.
Coming back where we left off, we'll start off with the press box sponsors. We have Chick-fil-A of Hickory Flat, as well as Ernst Concrete. Down to the spear level, we have iTransit Solutions, LLC. And then finally to the tomahawk level, we have CYFA, Physical of Hickory Flat, Johnson Plumbing, Squeaky Clean, as well as 1010 Contracting.
Absolutely. And Sequoia sending that kicking team back out after another Matthew Traynor passing touchdown as he found Moores, the big tight end, in the end zone. Sequoia has two big tight ends this year. They've got Ty Moores and Patrick Byrne.
One guy we haven't seen tonight so far is Jack Piesquers. We haven't seen him yet. Haven't called his name. Interested to see if he shows up later or maybe a little bit of a late-game scratch. Obviously, spring sports still going on. As you mentioned, the Sequoia track team out there breaking records and making people miss as well as everybody else here.
So getting ready to kick this one off as we got to be getting close to the final moments of the second half. Low line drive going to be taken at the 25-yard line, and they'll blow the whistle.
And as we mentioned, it's a spring game here, so you're not going to see anybody do any returns.
Speaking of spring sports, want to shout out to our high school girls, the Sequoia girls track team, as they have a special request. Go ahead and take it away, Will Hogendijk.
So I heard the girls are watching, so I just want to say hi out there and thank you for watching. Great job on all the records you're breaking.
So there's a shout out from Will Hogendijk, that girls track team. You ladies are doing a fantastic job out at state from what Coach Mann is telling us, and good luck tomorrow in the finals, and we hope you bring home some nice hardware. Maybe we can put your name up on the banner in the mezzanine, and maybe some trophies in the trophy case, and we'll throw it back over to Cooper for Lassiter's offense.
Thank you, my friend. Mezzanine means roof for anybody that did not grow up in the north. As that's a slant out to the outside, really in the flat, dropped incomplete.
You know, it was a good pass there, but just a little bit of a fumbling of the hands there by the intended receiver, Jack Strickland, the junior listed as a defensive back.
You're going to see Lassiter rotate a lot of guys in, and that's one of the important things, too, is none of these positions are nailed down. You're going to have to rotate a lot of guys in, find out who you feel comfortable with, and if something doesn't work, you've got a few months to really go back and evaluate it.
You know, one of the things that I think we haven't got to see from the spring game so far is how Sequoia is going to match up with an athletic wide receiver. We got to see it last year when they played Centennial, and we'll talk about that one after this play.
3 wide. tight end running back, and they're going to run to the exact same. Ooh, what a great move out there. We want to go back and rewatch that one. Ooh, and a great hit there on the corner. You see Sequoia here. They knocked down a couple of coaches. Everybody's okay. And on the hit was number 11 for Sequoia, and that is Matthew Traynor, as you might have heard us mention him before. So everybody bringing the lumber.
Bring up second down for Traynor.
One of the interesting things about Matthew Traynor as a quarterback, he has to be on the receiving end of some of those big hits sometimes. So it's good to know that not only can he dish it out, but he can also take it as well. And that's another big thing that you want out of a strong quarterback, and another big depleting hit by the Sequoia Chiefs offense. And I think
Murray hobbling off there.
I think it came at the expense of Murray a little bit as he's hobbling off. We hope we see him back soon after a nice jump cut to kick that play off.
Right you are. And receiver you mentioned for Centennial, Julius Nixon, Tennessee commit, 4-star. As back to pass here. Surveys way out in the flat, and receiver fell on the route there.
Pass falls incomplete.
Good sportsmanship there by Hancock to pick up the young man as they'll return back. But Julius Nixon, 6'4" wide receiver, as you mentioned, big play guy, and singled up there. You know, as you look around the region, you got to feel like there's going to be a lot of talent. For the other Cherokee County teams, you know, Darius Harshaw is one of those guys. Jackson Head's one of those guys. Creekview is going to have to replace a lot of receivers. We'll have to see who they can come up with because Andrew Cloy and Dawson Curry are both out. And, you know, the backside of that is everybody else in the region tends to have a lot of talent. And, you know, the backside of that is everybody else in the region tends to have a lot of talent.
From that first play has had everything going their way. And now that we're a little bit of now that we're here in halftime, let's go ahead and go around the county a little bit. I'll let you take it away, Coop.
Well, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on around the county, and I think that Sequoia fits right into this spot. You know, as we mentioned, they're going to play every team, maybe not in the regular seasons. They'll face Etowah as that scrimmage game, but you're going to see them face Woodstock. You're going to see them, of course, face the other two teams within 6A, River Ridge and Creekview being within region, and then, of course, the Cherokee game that will take place here at the beginning of September, end of August. I don't remember if it's that August 27th or September 4th game. But a lot of excitement there. And I tell you, you know, when you look around the county, of course, everybody's attention turns to River Ridge, right, because they were kind of that sleeper pick. They went 11-1, made it all the way to the Elite Eight, lost to Lee County, who ended up going to play for the state championship, falling to Buford. They're taking on Marietta right now, having a really rough spring game right now. It seems like Marietta's kind of run up the score on them a little bit, but Marietta's a 7A school. They were also a state champ in 2019, so a lot of pedigree.
A good 7A school.
Right. So as we mentioned in the broadcast, they're losing 11 starters, 7 of them on defense. Good news is they're bringing back Amir Morrison, who had 1,996 yards, so just under 2K. Carson Latham was the second leading passer in Cherokee County last year. And then Jackson Head, as a lot of you know from your basketball broadcast, is just a fantastic athlete. Of course, Carson also a basketball player. But Jackson, 6'5", huge target. And with Riley Canes leaving for college ball, you know, he was a 6'3", 210 target. Jackson's going to be relied on very heavily. So for River Ridge, a lot to be excited about there moving forward. So the Knights, good position, interesting game to watch. Moving on to Creekview. Creekview is probably the biggest question mark in 6A because they're going to have to replace a lot of people. So one of the big things is that you're going to see them have to replace the quarterbacks. They have two options. They've got Mason Hicks and they've got Austin Guest. And it sounds like Hicks is the guy that's taking the ball for them. Hicks is the senior. Austin Guest is a freshman. So both of them are very talented. As we mentioned, the receiving core is very weak right now. They're going to have to find a lot of answers with Andrew Cloy being out, Dawson Curry being out, both those guys graduating. Going to be interesting to see that as well. The good news for them is the backfield's back. So AJ Vaccaro and Tyler Stevens are both back, so going to be a lot of talent there. So that's 6A for you. So wherever you guys feel like they fall within the pecking order of Region 7 6A, I can't tell you much about Riverwood or Johns Creek or anything like that, but I can tell you about those two.
I think Sequoia's got a really good chance to make a lot of hay this year.
Yeah, I do too. I think that you have to feel like with what we've seen so far, with the defense that they can play, if they can keep up this kind of intensity, you have to feel like they're going to put a lot of pressure on these guys. And I think moving forward, you know, we kind of saw teams start to sleep on River Ridge a little bit after a couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if Sequoia can be that sleeper pick this year, make that 6-4, 7-3 season, possibly even 8-2. You know, problem is once you get above that mark, you're kind of getting into that perfection season where you have to face those out-of-region opponents that are really tough.
And I really think the Cherokee game is going to be telling for Sequoia.
Let's talk about Cherokee.
To see that offensive defensive matchup. Obviously, Sequoia might have a better time moving the ball against a younger defense, but Cherokee is absolutely loaded on the offensive side of the football, and we really haven't seen the Sequoia Chiefs defense be tested here this evening in the spring game, as they have flat out dominated the Laster Trojans except for one 80-yard touchdown at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, and Cherokee is loaded. They're the most talented team in Cherokee County. I'm sorry if that upsets River Ridge fans or whoever, but they are the most talented. Doesn't mean that they're the best coached, or it doesn't mean that they're the better team, but out of raw talent, if you could pick a team, it would be that one to take over. I mean, you've got, as we mentioned, Keith Adams Jr., you've got A.J. Swan, who committed to go to Maryland as a 3-star. Wouldn't be surprised to see him pick up that 4th star. He was the MVP of the Rivals camp over in Texas this year.
Big camp.
So, yeah, big deal. He's a big deal. And then, of course, Adarius Harshaw is also that guy. Track speed, ridiculous speed. Oh, and they also picked up a guy named Aiden Moore. So kind of important to note. On the defensive side, they are replacing a lot. They are returning a guy named Toby Thompson, who's a defensive end, has a few offers floating around there. You're going to see him get a lot of attention. And going back to River Ridge, they also have Brian Bradley, who was our pick for Defensive Player of the Year. I should mention him. But, yeah, and also Amir Morrison was our Offensive Player of the Year as well. So, River Ridge has a lot of talent returning, but Cherokee probably has the most talent just out of the roster.
I saw Harshaw pick up an offer from the Naval Academy.
Yes.
Harshaw, I'm an Army guy, so if Army comes calling, I would not be upset with that. Navy, but a great school nonetheless.
He's also got a few offers from UCF. He picked up one from Utah, Maryland, so he's picking up those big offers. A lot of these guys that we're going to talk about for Cherokee are 3-star. They will move up to 4-star throughout the season. We'll see that.
Speaking of former Cherokee County players who are doing a fantastic job, McGee.
Miles McGee
up for Northern Illinois, getting that Maction in.
He was a 3-star recruit as well. Chose Northern Illinois, which we all kind of scratched our heads at. We weren't sure why he picked that. Not sure about that at all, but he is a very talented player. Was one of those guys out here that you just knew locking down. So for Cherokee, don't be surprised to see Cherokee kind of come in. Obviously the game's here, so Skip Hope is a great place to have a game. It was at Tommy Baker last year. But, man, I'm excited to see Cherokee come over here and play a Sequoia defense that is running around like this.
I'm excited to see fans back for those games. For when Cherokee comes to town, when River Ridge comes to town, when Sequoia travels the 8 miles as the bird flies up to Owen Store Road and takes on the Creekview Grizzlies. I was actually present for the very first game in that rivalry series as Matt Thompson was the big hero for Sequoia, blocking an extra point in overtime to seal the deal for the Sequoia Chiefs. I was actually standing on the Creekview sideline, but a big moment in that rivalry. But Creekview ever since then has really just taken it over, and it'll be exciting to see all the fans back here in the stadiums this fall in full form, getting the bands back, getting the student sections full, getting the crowds full to see that football atmosphere. And when we get to welcome some big schools like River Ridge and Creekview, River Ridge and Cherokee, that's going to make all the difference.
Yeah, and a couple of the other teams just quickly. Creekview's playing North Forsyth tonight. Cherokee's playing Campbell. Haven't got any updates on them. The only thing I've heard from the Creekview folks is that Hicks is taking the ball and having an absolute game over there, rolling North Forsyth. I don't have a score for you there. And then let's jump into 7A real quick here. As we mentioned, Cherokee's in 7A. And the one that is probably the biggest question mark, and the one that is the regular season game that's not Etowah, is Woodstock. And they're not having a scrimmage. They're doing a W Day, which will be May 22nd. So mark that on your calendar if you want to go attend. Of course, you can. And as we mentioned, there is a complete blow-up of the facilities over there. Not the facilities, but the coaching and everything going on over there.
Wording.
As they're bringing,
Wording.
As they're bringing up Troy Hoff from Eastside Covington. He's never had a losing season as a coach. And he's also coached a guy, you might have heard of him, named Eric Stokes. He happened to be a first-round pick for the Green Bay Packers this year. He played at Eastside Covington, was one of Hoff's projects as well. So you have to feel like he's got a little bit of coaching know-how coming
Have
over.
in fact heard of Eric Stokes.
Yeah, you might have. So I played at Georgia as well. If everybody's thinking, that name sounds familiar, but I didn't watch the draft. He played at Georgia. So big-time talent over there. Woodstock's known for some of their big-time talent. As we mentioned, David Daniel being one of those guys. They are returning a few guys, but they are losing a lot, including David Daniel. But they will be returning Dan Cuomo and Preston Lawrence. Both of those guys were both kind of the athlete quarterbacks that split time, as we saw Sequoia kind of have the quarterback battle.
One of my favorite Woodstock players that I got to see last year, Carson Gray.
Carson Gray played in the December game as well, the showcase game going on. It was over in Rome. And I tell you, Carson is 5'8", 160. He's about my size. You see me standing here next to Chase.
He does not play like that.
No, he is mean, he is physical, and he is quick. So make sure you get some tickets to go see Woodstock play. I believe that game's at Woodstock.
It is.
But I tell you, man, Carson is a fantastic young man. really can run around and hit some guys, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
Absolutely. One of the things that I like so much about Carson is that first step. He has such a fast first step. We got to see him here at Sequoia last year, and I even covered their game against Alpharetta last year as well. His first step is so fast that he is in the backfield before guys who are much bigger than him are even off the ball.
Yep.
We saw him last year playing against Sequoia in the season opener. His first move, he was in the backfield behind, and he was by and behind some offensive linemen who are much larger than myself.
Yes.
And so he's going to be one of my favorite guys to watch out of that Woodstock Wolverines program.
Yeah, the other team that we'll mention is Etowah, and that'll be the team that is the August 13th scrimmage for Sequoia. And Etowah is just as big of a question mark as Woodstock with a few more names that we know. We know the quarterback battle going on over there, as that was between Will Curcio and Braden Bohannon. The Bohannon family, you might have heard of them. They also lost Brock Recksteiner. And anybody that watched basketball knows that Brock Recksteiner was an absolute monster as he's headed over to Barry to play. And Brock is just a fantastic young man, really good athlete, so excited to see what he does at the next level. But Etowah has a lot of questions to be answered. They, of course, have Coach Kemper. If you're unfamiliar with him, he came from Roswell, had a lot of success. They're still trying to get that offense implemented. There's a lot of jet sweeps and motions and things like that that are kind of difficult. But as the season rolls on, Etowah should be much improved as they picked up a win last year at Alpharetta, which was perfect for Cherokee fans because it bumped Cherokee down to the 3rd seed and forced Cherokee to go on the road and play North Gwinnett, which, of course, we all know how that turned out.
How did that turn out?
Not great. I don't know why you're going to make me say it because, I try to be impartial. But, yeah, it wasn't great. They lost to North Gwinnett in the first round, never really could move the ball. The only losses that Cherokee had was Roswell, which was a game where the defensive coordinator was actually sick, so he wasn't able to be there. So they gave up 42 points, I believe, in a 42-38 loss. And then they lost to Milton and then North Gwinnett. So pretty good opponents to lose to.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the crowning achievements of that season for the Cherokee Warriors last year is breaking that winning streak of the Cartersville Purple Hurricanes. Another huge matchup for a Cherokee County team as Cherokee going to travel over to Cartersville to take on the Purple Hurricanes again. And a familiar name for Purple Hurricanes fans, Coach King has picked up a new job over in Carrollton.
Yes, he is the head coach at Carrollton. And quick plug, they'll also be on the Corky Kell game, which we plan to carry on WLJA. So it's a Wednesday night, 5:30 kickoff. That'll be at West Forsyth, and they will play Mays. So keep all that straight in your head if you can. But that will be the game. That's August 18th. That's the Wednesday night game before we turn around on Friday night. We don't count it as a regular game. We just throw it in the schedule because obviously we want to support our Cherokee County teams wherever they go.
And I think that's a big deal for Cherokee County high school fans because realizing the magnitude of that Cartersville winning streak, they had not lost a regular season game, and I think it was 62 tries.
68. They were 68-0, and it was since 2014 was the last time.
That
they lost
is
a regular
years.
season.
You have kids that were in elementary school.
I was a freshman.
You were a freshman
when that went on. So
I was not a freshman. I had been out of school for quite some time. Pardon my age, but that Cartersville win streak spanned a lot of history. I mean, even the Trevor Lawrence years, never losing a game. And after him, they had a quarterback who ended up going, I believe it was to Louisville.
Yes, and the quarterback that they got to play, his name escapes me. He was the quarterback at Cambridge. Of course, after they lost, Cartersville being Cartersville, they picked up the phone and got Carlos Del Rio. You might have heard of him. He's a 4-star headed to Florida. So they needed a little bit of quarterback help. They called up their guy and said, hey, if you want to come over and play for the Purple Hurricanes, you can. But not to be outdone, but Rome also was a big win for them. Kind of when we as a community and kind of as football fans realized that Cherokee was more than what they were in 2019 when they ended up winning a couple of games. They obviously beat Westlake in the first round of the playoffs in 2019, then lost to Archer in the second round. But that was kind of the game where we kind of realized that Cherokee might be a little bit more legit than we think. And Rome, obviously things have changed a lot for them. They've got a really good young freshman quarterback that didn't come in until later in the year. But we'll see this year. They have the exact same out-of-region schedule this year.
And a big surprise over from Bartow County. Sequoia was on the less fortunate end of this. The Cass Colonels,
yes.
The big surprise coming out of Bartow County last year. Coach Gates, in his first year with that program, turned it around immediately. They won their first 5 games, including shutting out Sequoia here at Skip Pope Stadium in the second half. They were whatever the opposite of the beneficiary is of a brutal region to include Calhoun, a powerhouse up there in North Georgia, Cartersville, who we've been talking about, and Blessed Trinity, who's Blessed Trinity.
Blessed, yeah.
I mean, you think about Steel Chambers, who ended up going to Ohio State. You think about all the talent that comes out of that program. Shout out to Northwest Georgia Football on Twitter, by the way. You do a fantastic job of covering all those teams in that part of the state. But, Coach Gates had that team firing on all cylinders on the first half of the season. Their quarterback was a true freshman. So it'll be great to see if Henderson can carry a lot of that momentum into his sophomore season at quarterback. And I can't lie, Will, probably one of my favorite traditions in high school football is the firing of the cannon after they score a touchdown. And they just so happen to fire it right over by the visitor sideline.
That's where they do it. Yeah, the Cass Colonels, a really improved team, as we mentioned. We talked in 2018 about the stacked region that was Region 6-6A, right? Sequoia, Creekview, River Ridge, and then Harrison, Allatoona, Dalton as well. Jameer Gibbs, if anybody remembers him at Dalton, the current star running back at Georgia Tech. I mean, just lighting things up. He's going to be a first-day draft pick. I'm just telling you right now. If I had to put money on it, I would, because he's just super impressive to me. Smart young man as well. So you got to remember.
Shout out to the Catamounts.
Yeah, Dalton Catamounts, and an interesting thing for them is we'll just kind of do a broad overview here, I guess. They replaced Coach Matt Land after one season, going 3-7 in a down year. But in 2019, he was the coach of the year.
A lot of that going around in the state of Georgia.
It happens too, as we mentioned. Some South Georgia teams. One of the things that I love,
since we're covering the entire state of Georgia high school football,
drop some bombs, right? One of the things that I love is when you look at the state champions this year, the power really shifted north.
Yes.
And you see, Warner Robins and Cartersville played for that. I was really glad to see Buford beat Lee County for multiple reasons, but really the big reason being that Northern's power swing out of South Georgia. And then 7A, you typically have kind of that beating where you get Colquitt County, Valdosta, so. Well, there's a guy by the name of Rush Probst. You might have heard of him.
Yeah, we won't have to worry about Valdosta for a couple of years.
No, we will not. They are playoff banned for a while, so that's good news.
My wife, I know you're watching. I know you're a Valdosta alum. I'm sorry, dear.
Yikes. That's rough. Yeah, but I would say, moving forward, you have to feel like the power shift north is really good. Milton, obviously, in 7A, a lot of strength. 6A, Marietta as well in 7A, excuse me. Buford in 6A, they're going to be right back in the mix of things. Westlake, if you want to count that as North Georgia, kind of that Atlanta area, I consider it to be north if you cut the map, And then
it's north of Macon.
Yeah, and then as you go down, as we mentioned, Cartersville. Cartersville kind of got that rough shake, being a private school, and they count, or not a private school, but a city school, where if kids live outside the district, they count as a kid, and bumped up to 5A. That was kind of rough for them. So you're kind of seeing that move upwards. But I just got to say, I'm really excited to see how a lot of these teams do, especially our North Georgia teams, because, as much as we love to focus on the big names like Rush Probst and Valdosta, and as much fun as it is to make fun of them, you got to feel like you want to keep things at least a little bit localized. And I got to tell you, football in Cherokee County has done so much better since my first season, even in 2018. The talent has expanded so much in the past 4 years as we get ready for this one, and it is just a fantastic thing to see.
So, now that we've lobbed bombs at the entire southern half of the state of Georgia, and the Rocker League going to come out in full force against Will Cooper here, and the Wildcats going to make a special trip up here as well.
They don't have my Twitter.
Not
on
in the
bottom
playoffs,
of
they
the
won't.
screen,
But
right? they
no, I don't think we have the lower third on us.
That's good. We did that during basketball season. I was like, this is good. I just don't need it during football season.
They'll find out. Don't worry. They'll figure you out one way or the other. So as the music starts to play in the stadium, we'll come back before we go into the state of Tennessee and Florida for high school football. We'll refocus here our attention to the Sequoia Chiefs, who are currently leading the Lassiter Trojans 28-7. A little bit of a recap of the first half. Lassiter got the ball first, and on their first offensive play of the game, were able to run all the way back for a touchdown after the touchback, courtesy of running back Jaheim Murray, the sophomore that Coach Sheehan for the Lassiter Trojans talked to us about earlier in the game, as we hear Sweet Caroline playing in the background, the Ultimate Sporting Event song. And Sequoia responded in kind on their second offensive possession. Matthew Traynor came out on his first offensive possession and threw an interception, but Sequoia shook off the cobwebs on their second offensive possession of the game, came down, drove, scored a touchdown. And then it was all Sequoia from there, as the defense had all the answers for the Lassiter offense, and Sequoia punched in 3 more touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns courtesy of Matthew Traynor. He connected with Ty Moores on one of them, Peyton Lucas on another one, and then was able to punch one, and then Peyton Lucas was able to run one in. So the Sequoia Chiefs who have touchdowns are Jackson Hancock, Peyton Lucas with 2, and Ty Moores, the big tight end, was the recipient of one of the Matthew Traynor touchdowns in the right side end zone underneath the scoreboard as the Chiefs come back out onto the field to start the second half. We'll see how this one shakes out. I have to wonder if we're going to see some of the younger guys and underclassmen start getting some reps. Is this one starting to get out of hand in Sequoia's favor?
Well, I think you're going to see them kind of experiment a little bit more. I think you're going to see them try some things. We saw them at the end go to the shotgun. You'd like to see them do that. But, of course, as you go into the locker room, they're going to make some adjustments. You want to see some blocking angles a little bit differently. You want to see the defense interact a little differently as well. So don't be surprised if you see the starters for at least a good bit longer. I would say at least to the end of the third, maybe.
Will Hogendijk, how you hanging out over there?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for this good second half. Hoping Sequoia will get a jump out here early.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Will Hogendijk joining myself and Will Cooper here in the quote-unquote booth. As the musical stylings of Neil Diamond lull us into this spring evening here at Skip Pope Stadium. See the Moss start heading towards the big stadium lights. Still a little bit of twilight left over the visiting side as a nice crowd from Lassiter has come over to enjoy the spring scrimmage. As Lassiter coming out of their locker room trailing 28-7. We'll have to see if they start experimenting with some other things. But here at Skip Pope Memorial Stadium, things looking bright for the Sequoia Chiefs, especially the underclassmen, which was a big thing that we got to talk about with Coach Teeter in the interview during spring practice this week, was he has a lot of faith in these younger guys who are coming out. And Sequoia's defense doing a fantastic job, even minus Harrison Hood. Understand that he had surgery, had an injury that he's recovering from. So Harrison, if you're watching, get better soon. We're going to need you in the fall time as both edge rushers are returning for this Sequoia defense. Coach Teeter had stressed the importance of both of them coming back, and then that nose tackle, Brady Curl, who Coach also talked about. We haven't really said his name much tonight, but having a big nose tackle and two senior defensive ends who can really get after the quarterback is going to be huge for setting up this new 3-4 defense.
And one of the guys that I really like coming in is Kamar Plummer. He's a linebacker. He kind of played nose tackle a little bit last year, 5'10", 200 pounds, a little bit undersized for that position. But I really like his upside at the linebacking position in this new 3-4. You're going to see him as a middle linebacker, interior linebacker. But I'd really like to see a little bit more of him. He wears number 35 as well. You know, one of those guys that I put on my list for moving into this 2021 year that you can kind of watch and see things moving forward. So one of him as well. And then, of course, the defensive backs are doing really good. We want to continue to see that, of course, because as we mentioned, when you're going to be bringing a 3-4, there's typically going to be a lot of isolation football because you're going to have respect the run at least a little bit, and those corners have an opportunity to get burned on the backside. Of course, we're seeing Matthew Traynor play safety as well. Important to see, of course, that as well, because you want to keep everybody off to the side. As a corner, you can kind of use the sideline to your advantage on those go routes, because with guys like Jackson Head and, of course, these other receivers that we mentioned, you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, and you've seen guys like Jackson Hancock, as well as Matthew Traynor, obviously, and even Ben Sanders. I mean, they've been able to do a good job of getting to wherever the pass is going to be, as well as locking down that run game, which is, something we've said quite a bit, but they've just been able to do a really good job of that.
Yeah, they really have. And one thing that I would say moving forward as well is, obviously you don't want to get too focused on the defense, but, the old adage, defense wins championships. It's still true, especially in high school football, when the minute details really kind of get lost in translation when you get in there. And one of the important things is tone setting, especially when, Chase, you mentioned, Cherokee coming to town, going over to play Creeky, River is coming to town. You want to set the tone against guys like that because they're going to come in with an attitude of their own. So if you can kind of match that with your own physicality, I like that. I'm really excited to see Buddy's defense. And then on the offensive side, look, I don't know what they're going to do with the shotgun in the regular season, but it's really, really good to see, because then if it's 3rd and 8, you don't have to line up in that. I hope they keep the shotgun in the playbook because it's worked pretty well here tonight.
We definitely got to see it towards the latter half of last season, and I think the shotgun definitely contributed to the success of this offense down the home stretch. You look at Sequoia's schedule last year, opened up against Woodstock, lost 41-35. Yes, it was a valiant effort towards the end, but ultimately the backbreaker was that David Daniel 70-yard kickoff return that set up a touchdown that was basically the death nail in the coffin for the Chiefs. And then Sequoia went to Cherokee the following week, had a good showing in the first half, but ultimately Cherokee was the more talented team and ran away with it. And then Sequoia welcomed in Cass, who just surprised them by shutting them out in the second half. And then they had to travel to Johns Creek. Once again, couldn't score an offensive touchdown. The only touchdown that was scored by Jonah Haney, the senior who's departed now, as he picked off a pass and ran that one into the end zone. And then Sequoia finally No, Sequoia had to travel to Creekview, Creekview came to Sequoia and absolutely worked Sequoia 24-0. I don't want to say worked, but it definitely wasn't close. And then, Sequoia rattled off 4 wins in 5 games, beating Cambridge, Chattahoochee, losing to River Ridge, but then beating Riverwood and Centennial as Sequoia comes back out to start the second half. And they're going to receive as they kicked off first. So we'll see what defensive adjustments Lassiter is going to come out with. As Traynor and Jackson Hancock try to make their way back to the receiving positions.
See who's got that sprint speed going down there. The 40 times working on him.
Shout out to another Cherokee, to some of our other people who help us cover Cherokee County football. Coach Mosley.
Yeah, Arthur Mosley. He, well, I can't tell you that. That might not be my place to tell you. Never mind. Yeah, we appreciate Coach Art Mosley. We got to know him, the Turd Ferguson Report. He's such a good friend of mine. Really appreciate him and his kind help with us this past season. And then Vaughn Brown at Cedarwood Tavern. And Dave Garner with his son at the track meet as his son finished 3rd for the mile race. His son,
congratulations.
Some SEC, ACC offers for track.
And we're underway here in the second half. Traynor chases this one towards the sideline and goes out of bounds at the 1-yard line. So that was not a good idea. I think he might have signaled fair catch because they're walking this one up to the 25-yard line. So don't mind me. I just work here.
What do I know?
But, yes, as you said, Coach Mosley, maybe we're going to try and get him in the booth for the Etowah scrimmage this year. So it'd be fun to have him.
We might have to say something about that. I don't know.
Oh, no. Are we in a running gun battle with WLJA for Coach Mosley's services?
It's possible. We do appreciate Art, though. He provides, I tell you, if you're a fan of Cherokee County football, the Turd Ferguson Report, and he also does 8 grade around the state. If you want to pick the 8 best games to watch, he does such a good job. The preparation he does to write the article, that's the TurdFergusonReport.com. Really good stuff.
Sequoia's offense, first offensive snap of the second half, handoff to Peyton Lucas, who gets taken down after a quick 1-yard run. So that'll bring up 2nd and 9. Sequoia starting on the 30-yard line. And this one will move ahead to the 31. So 2nd and 9 coming up. Sequoia still going with with all their number 1s on offense, as Will said in the break. So Sequoia going to switch it up now. Matthew Traynor creeps up under center. Takes the snap, drops back, going to find a seam in the offensive line, rumbles ahead, and is dragged down after a gain of what looks like 5.
And that's the thing about him, right, is that in the middle of the field you have a real opportunity to take some big shots, but he does such a good job, just so shifty. As a tackler, you never feel like you can square him up. You just feel like as soon as you see him, I'm just going to wrap my arms around him. I'm not worried about laying the lumber on that kind of guy because he's really just going to, it might put me on skates if I try and level up with him. So let me just go ahead and wrap him up there. And that'll help him not only at this level and help him throughout the season as he is a big part of the offense, but also on defense as well, keep him fresh.
3rd and 3 coming up. Lassiter loading the line of scrimmage, playing tight. All their men in the box, hand off to Peyton Lucas, and down he goes as he is wrestled to the ground by the entire Lassiter defense. 4th down for the Chiefs, and we'll see the seldom seen punt unit for Sequoia. No, we will not, as Traynor's making his way back out to the huddle. So Sequoia already with a big 4th down conversion this evening that resulted in a touchdown, but Sequoia fairly deep in their own side of the field, going to go ahead and go for it on 4th and what looks like 2.
That's what a wing T team will do, is you're going to want to go for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3 if your guys give it to you. It's like a reward.
And they're going to hand this one off, and nothing happening there as the big defensive lineman for Lassiter with that offer to Liberty University. That's going to be Ethan McKinney. Blows that one up in the backfield. Turnover on downs and turnover on the play-by-play call as we throw this one back over to you, Coop.
Thank you, Chase. As you mentioned, of course, Ethan McKinney will turn around and play left tackle here for the Trojans. One of those, if you got the talent, use it, of course. And we see that with, it's normally with 6A, you don't see that happen a whole lot as you look around the region 7, 6A. Normally your guys will play one way, but Sequoia is one of those that takes advantage of the two-way system as well with their athletes. Checking into the game, number 82, Patrick Burney. I butchered that name. Apologies. 4 wide.
Usually a tight end for the Chiefs coming in on the defensive side of the ball now.
See him down here as the near side defensive end on your screen. 3-4 once again. This is a handoff. And right up the middle, good shake of the tacklers, but he's finally going to be wrapped up there in the middle. I believe final contact was made by Luke Gaddis. And important thing to note there is that Jaheim Murray is back on the field for the Trojans. We saw him shaken up towards the end of the second.
Tackle made by number 82, Patrick Byrne.
So they'll give the credit to the tackle for Patrick Byrne there, number 82, excuse me, not 32. 3-4 wide. 17 down here at the near corner. You see bailout technique there from Sequoia early as they'll go to the first down marker. Quick pass. Good blocking downfield. And that'll be enough for a first down. Still rumbling forward. Finally forced out of bounds. As Benton Darling there out on the tackle.
Good job there by Shaw Mixon to create some space and then creep along the sideline and pick up a big first down for Laster. Laster hasn't had much momentum going on offense, and finally a chance for them to move the sticks, and they are getting closer. I think they are. Yes, they are inside Sequoia's red zone.
So they'll set up shop at the 17-yard line. So one more first down to get before pay dirt. Smelling the end zone now. First time that they've even got close in quite a while. Claps his hands, surveys out in the flat there, and that was just wide and thrown. He's probably glad it was overthrown because headhunting was Sanders.
Sequoia playing really soft coverage in the secondary, giving a lot of room for these guys to work. Sequoia trying to keep everything in front of them so they can rush to the football on these screen passes and these little safety valves for the Lassiter quarterback.
And when you see a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of confidence or success, that's fine because you can go ahead, they're going to try a lot of those float passes like you saw there, the slow developing. It gives your guys time to come up and make the tackle, and that's exactly where you see the big hits come from. So they've got 4 wide once again. This time a little bit closer is in the slot. And they're all over him, but he's going to swing it back out this time, and a great open field tackle once again. As you see, Sequoia really rallying to the football. Ben Sanders does make the hit that time to wrap him up, and it'll be a loss of about 2 all the way back to the 20.
So Sequoia doesn't get the sack, but they're still able to protect. Their side of the field and come up with a tackle for loss.
And, Will, you saw that was almost the exact same play that Lassiter just tried there with number 33, Bryson Shaw on the Sequoia side, coming at the quarterback instead of staying out wide, and that's why they were able to complete the pass, but fortunately we were also able to get the quick tackle.
That's exactly the plan. Defensive backs. You're going to see him play man, but it's going to be soft man and even a little bit of zone. As you see, everybody's on an island here. Safeties are going to be playing right at the middle. Begging for a pass and opportunity here as they bring a blitz, and it's once again thrown just out short. He's going to run it up about halfway to the first down marker, but not close. So bring up 4th and just eyeballing it. Let's call it 6.
See if Lassiter brings out the field goal unit here if they go for it. I believe I see a kicker trotting in from the sideline.
Yeah, and I think you want to try a kick here just for moving forward. Obviously, a game doesn't go on your record. You'd like to see where you're at field goal-wise and see what kind of opportunity you have and how comfortable he is working from the hash, as that is the far side hash from where you see it on your point of view here, as we are stationed on the home side of Skip Pope.
Drew Campbell, the kicker for Lassiter.
He's 1 for 1 on extra points. He's got plenty of leg, and that one is clear through. So it'll be 10-7. Still Chiefs taking over. Excuse me. It's 10-21. I'll get it right. 28. I'll get it right eventually, right?
28-10.
No scoreboard, man. I'm falling behind here. Too busy talking about South Georgia football.
I know, making all those people mad down there.
Well, somebody's got to do it. If it's not me, it'll be the GHSA.
Oh, boy. We're getting into murky water here in a spring game.
The reflections of Will Cooper do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sequoia High School.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say this: Valdosta is probably one of the greatest atmospheres to watch watch high school football and college football.
Yes.
As the Blazers
Valdosta
and the
State.
Wildcats both share the same stadium, Bazemore Hyder Stadium. Got a museum in that stadium, just for the high school team.
And one of the other ones, if you're not that far or feel like that's a little bit far south, Dalton is another great one. That's a great atmosphere to go to. We mentioned the Catamounts a little bit earlier. If you're up in Carpet area.
Jameer Gibbs doing yeoman's work for the Yellow Jackets.
No doubt about that one. Yellow Jackets glad they got him. It wasn't really a sold thing. Got offers from Alabama, Ole Miss. Georgia never came calling, though. As that one's kicked and headed towards Matthew Traynor, and he'll field that one about the 4. And, of course, they'll blow the whistle dead, and they'll take over at the 25-yard line. And Chase, take it away.
Sequoia coming back out. Nothing doing on that first offensive possession. Turnover on downs. I think they got one first down, and then the drive stalled out after that. Lassiter doing a better job in the second half of getting a lot of pressure in the backfield. So we'll see what Sequoia comes up with as the ones are still on the field for the Chiefs as they lead the Lassiter Trojans 28-10 here in the second half of the spring game.
Got it now, 28-10. Which means they'll score here in a little bit just to mess me up.
Motion to the far side, from the far side to the near side, looking inside, a lot of room, and a big run there by Jackson Hancock. He's going to pick up about 6. So a good first down play for the Sequoia Chiefs. As Jackson Hancock has had himself quite a spring game.
Really has. Somebody that we didn't know coming into this. I'm sure people closer to the program knew, but from somebody who used Cherokee County.
We did.
I certainly didn't, so he's a guy that I've underlined, highlighted, all the things on the paper here, somebody to go back and tell the folks at home about.
A lot of coaches singing his praises earlier in the year. Hand off to Peyton Lucas, and Peyton Lucas has some space to operate, and he'll pick up the first down for the Chiefs. I think he might have picked up 9 or 8 yards on that one, but it'll move the sticks for Sequoia as Peyton Lucas also having a big game for the Chiefs with 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving and 1 rushing.
Yeah, and on those last 2 plays, you saw both running backs going more up the middle than usual. Usually they're in those outside lanes as we've been talking about, but they've been able to power through and get quite a good bit of good yardage.
Sequoia's offense finding its rhythm once again. Traynor under center, 1 wide receiver to the far side of the field. He's going to roll out, finds him, he's covered up. Traynor deep downfield for Jackson Hancock, and it goes right through his hands as he was streaking toward the sideline deep into Lassiter territory. He had the pass all day, but just beyond his fingertips.
What a throw, though. As you mentioned, going back across his body, post route, absolute dime over the middle. Just a bit outside, though. And I think that's kind of one of those things that as the season progresses and you get more into summer practice and things like that, you'll be able to see them really nail that stuff down. That's a lot of timing stuff and getting used to seeing the ball out of Traynor's hands.
2nd and 10 coming up. I like the play call on that first down there, throwing something a little different at them out of that wing T formation. Sequoia has been more willing to throw the football when they have a wide receiver out far. Ball on the far hash mark on the 44-yard line. Lucas in motion. He's going to take a step to the right now. Wing back, that would be Jackson Hancock, going to take the pitch off the handoff. A nice stiff arm there. Still rumbling ahead, moving those legs. And a big pickup of looks like 8 yards by Jackson Hancock, who definitely showing off that work he's doing in the weight room. 8 yards the hard way and making this a 3rd and short.
I really like Lassiter out there right now, just being able to continue. I really like Sequoia out there being able to push Lassiter around. As we mentioned, a lot of big guys up front. We've seen them kind of sub out now with some smaller guys, but still, you're being able to see success everywhere now. So it's inside, outside, all that stuff. Wing T is a game of attrition. You want to wait till the 3rd and 4th quarter when you can wear them down and beat them with a play-action pass over the top.
Traynor fakes the handoff, gets flushed out of the pocket, calls for the receiver, throws this one. He's got a man open and is caught, streaking to the end zone, but no, tackled at the 4-yard line. Great job of recovering after getting beat by the defensive back for Lassiter, but a big catch there by Sequoia puts them inside the 5-yard line. Damon Baker, the receiver for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Damon Baker right there did a really good job. It's kind of funny to see Traynor call a shot there, right? Wave him over back to the middle.
Basically did what he was trying to do with Jackson Hancock earlier and was able to connect with the wide receiver that time. And the speedy small wide receiver gets the Sequoia Chiefs to the 5-yard line. So 28-10 still your score here. And hopefully this team is going to start creating some buzz at Sequoia High School among the student body here in the fall, as we'll have our inside man, Will Hogendijk, keeping us up on the morale of the Sequoia Chiefs program throughout the course of the year. Another pass by Traynor and a big hit.
Really good open field tackle.
To keep Sequoia from scoring, they'll maybe gain a yard on that one. Didn't catch the number on the receiver.
Bring up 2nd down for the Chiefs.
Carter Stant there.
As Sant picks up 1 yard, so 2nd and goal for the Chiefs.
Open field tackle by Pierce Stevenson.
That was a good tackle.
It was.
That was a really good tackle.
That's one of those isolation, and that's what happens, right? It was a play-action pass out the middle. You're assuming that if you run the ball 30, 40 times before this is that 3rd down. You're kind of seeing the simulation work, right, where you did the shotgun towards the end of the second, so you're trying to score that last-minute touchdown. Now you're here, still running some clock, but you want the play-action home run. 35-10 would really ice it for a wing T team.
Traynor snaps the ball to Lucas. Lucas trying to push across the goal line. Can't quite get there. He'll be stopped at the 1 yard line. So 3rd and goal coming up for Sequoia, as Lassiter not going quietly into that good night.
Yeah, and Lucas just getting more yardage. On the last few plays, you've seen some other guys get the ball that haven't gotten the ball that much tonight with Carter Sant, and I believe it was Damon Baker. But then on that 3rd down, you got to go to someone you know you can rely on, but unfortunately just wasn't able to get the touchdown there.
So 3rd and goal coming up for the Chiefs, trying to punch this one in and make it a 35-10 game. And we've got a timeout, so Sequoia wants to talk about this one. So as we go into a timeout break, we're going to go ahead and thank our sponsors here in the second half, and we'll run through all of them.
So here at the Ultimate Chief level, we have Riverstone Homes and Graphics, Pride Electric, All About Health, as well as Innovative Properties Group. Down to the Tribe level, we have Property Masters, Ready Mix USA, and the Geiger Group. At the concession stand level, we have Alpha Insurance, as well as the Credit Union of Georgia. Down to press box, we have Chick-fil-A of Hickory Flat, as well as Ernst Concrete. The Spear level, we have iTransit Solutions, LLC. And finally, at the Tomahawk level, we have CYFA, Physical of Hickory Flat, Johnson Plumbing, Squeaky Clean, and 1010 Contracting.
Thank you, Will, for thanking our sponsors. Sponsors, we want to thank you very much for everything that you have done for Sequoia Chiefs football. We look forward to hopefully working with you in the fall as well. As Sequoia comes out of the timeout, let's see what Coach Teeter's drawn up to try and put this ball in the end zone and walk this lead back out to 25 for the Sequoia Chiefs. Traynor settles in under center, snaps the ball, fakes the handoff, flushed out of the pocket, got one in the end zone. No, it's broken up. A fantastic job of defending the ball by the only Trojan with a touchdown tonight, Jaheim Murray. So a good job there by Murray to keep Sequoia out of the end zone. Let's see what they do here on 4th and 1.
Yeah, they're going for it. It's wing T football right here. Once again, you got your guys within 3 yards. That's the goal of the wing T team. It's the old idea. If I can gain 3 yards every single play, that puts you at 4th and 1. If you average 3 yards a play, that's plenty good enough.
And the way Sequoia's defense has been playing, right. No reason not to.
Yeah, if you don't get it, you pin them at the 3, right?
Big 4th down. No. Oh, a bobbled snap, and this one goes down. Let's see what happened.
And it looks like it was recovered by Lassiter.
And if Lassiter recovers in the end zone, that's the worst possible scenario for the Chiefs.
I didn't see anybody signal a touchback.
The back judge seemed to be signaling touchback. I don't know why he would be signaling it.
I think that was a recovery. It wasn't a touchback. It was a recovery.
So it will be Lassiter ball on the 1 yard line. So as Sequoia fumbles a goal line opportunity to put some points on the board, we'll fumble the play-by-play duties back over to Will Cooper.
Fumble it. I like that. Using different verbs here. Working out the English language here. And that's exactly where they'll take over is the 2 yard line.
It's not just a spring game for the players. We got to knock the rust off as well, so we're in prime form for our fall football season.
Right you are about that. Wrapping up baseball season. Of course, Woodstock, Cherokee, River Ridge all taking part in the playoffs for the GHSA. I believe Woodstock's still in it. As you'll see, Lassiter, one thing about a shotgun team is there's no substitution, no getting under center. And even in goals, that's a little dangerous as they're going to hand the ball off. Look out, big hole. 21 man to beat, and he's wrapped up very hard. That was number 26 out there on the tackle, Carter Sant. So you're seeing a little bit of substitutions in from the Sequoia defense now. We're going to call a few different names. Matthew Traynor still out there at safety. But Lassiter enough for a first down.
Sant got quite a bit of reps in the defense last year as well for Sequoia, so not unfamiliar in that defensive back seven, but a nice open field tackle there. A huge arm tackle. Usually you see these running backs shake off these arm tackles and push them away with a stiff arm or a little hand fighting and gets away from them. But Sant did an excellent job to make a big hit there and stop a big gain.
Right you are. Get back to the body mass. 4 wide. Showing blitz off the edge, and that's not going to go anywhere. They'll have to redo this. It's going to be an offsides on Sequoia. I believe number 33 came across the line as it was snapped. That's Bryson Shaw, sophomore linebacker.
Yep, Shaw a little too anxious to blitz the quarterback there.
No worries. Redo it here as we see a few different names out there. Nathan Pruitt, one of the linebackers out there as well. Just surveying across. You got number 27 playing the near side corner over here. Cameron Macy. So maybe some second teamers or some subs in. You see him still in the 3-4. Showing blitz off the side once again, and it's going to be a run right up the middle. Having a lot of success there, but Sequoia really hammering him when they run inside. The problem is they are getting successful yardage out there, so as much as you like to see the war of attrition going on in there, it isn't great news when you can run up the middle for 3-4 consistently. So something to keep an eye on for Sequoia as they move forward. And, of course, moving to that 3-4 is more of a spread defense.
You know, I think one of the impressive things, too, that we've seen from Sequoia coming out of the offseason, the program's put out a lot of video on Twitter of these guys doing some fantastic work in the weight room. And I think that's really contributing to this new culture that Sequoia is trying to create. And that's why we're seeing such a hard-nosed defense here tonight, even as the twos start to come in and take some reps.
Yes. 3 wide, 1 tight end, and the running back. It's going to be a pass this time, slung out to that far side, and it just falls to the hands. And once again, a textbook tackle out there. If he had caught it, it would have been bad news, a loss of about 1, but instead it falls harmlessly to the turf. And that was Tyler Bell out there in coverage, a sophomore. So 3rd and 2. And you have to assume as they go back out here on the play call, they'll try and go back up the middle on again.
Bring us up to 3rd down for Lassiter. Hey, let's get loud, Chief fans.
Hear the PA rallying the troops here as the student section down to the right of us here. Got a good bit of them leaned up against the fence. Looks like a whiteout with a couple of gold hats down there. So good to see. And, of course, the fans all here spread out among us as we're in the touchdown club with the seats here. Kids roaming the field, and then Lassiter has a good crowd. And that's a slant all the way, completed to number 17. Still fighting for a couple of yards before a group of about 4 Chiefs get there.
Take it down by a host
Pass
of Chiefs.
completed originally to Shaw Mixon. He's a sophomore. We've seen him a little bit, called his name a couple of times on a few blocks, but finally gets rewarded for the efforts of his labor. 1st down.
So a big 1st down there for the Trojans, taking advantage of that soft defensive coverage that Sequoia's been playing. Short pass gets you that 1 yard that you need, and then Mixon was able to get some extra yardage after the catch.
See him lined up on Cameron Macy out here, giving him about 5-6 yards of a cushion. And it's a toss, and he looked like he fumbled it, but I believe he got it back as it's out way across now. Flag comes in here on the backside. We'll have to check in on that. Makes you think it's a holding where it is, but if the play does stand, it is well enough for a 1st down, a great scamper, but let's check the call.
Yeah, this one's coming back. That's definitely a holding on Lassiter. I think as the running back was able to get the edge, hanging on a little bit too long to the linebacker, and this one will definitely come back.
Well, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You got to give respect for trying in the spring game.
I think everybody's just trying a little bit too hard. That one came back to haunt you a little bit, so they're going to mark off 10 yards. That's going to bring up 1st and long.
Push him back, still 1st down.
So 1st and an acre. As the ball set up at the 21-yard line, 22. As number 11 for Lassiter came working out about 5 yards into Sequoia territory, but finally found his way back to the line of scrimmage. A quick turnaround pass catch, gain of about 5. So really a win for both teams.
Nice job there by the corner for Sequoia for closing that gap. It was a quick pass out to the flat on the far side of the field, and the corner for Sequoia was able to close that space really quickly and execute a textbook tackle.
Bring up 2nd down.
Tyler Bell on the tackle out there. Lassiter having a little trouble getting all the wide receivers lined up. See them kind of running into one another and just not being sure where they are on the field. And that's going to be the old-fashioned run right up the middle, but Sequoia's going to stuff that one, and it's going to be still going backwards, but they're going to mark him really close to the line of scrimmage. I think that's a pretty generous spot, but he sees it better than I do. Let's call it a loss of 1. 3rd and 3/4 of an acre.
Sequoia swarming to the ball, and one of the things that I really enjoyed seeing tonight is Sequoia has done a fantastic job of plugging up the line, especially right up the middle. Sequoia, apart from that very first run that they gave up that went for 80 yards, Sequoia doing a fantastic job of filling all those gaps and stopping the running game.
Yeah, as it's the end of the 3rd here, we'll get a little bit of a break. So, yeah, I mean, I think moving forward, you know, Sequoia, a lot of upside, right? I mean, that's the thing, is that we're kind of seeing how the simulated game works, right? So you've had a lot of success early, and then you saw him go to the shotgun towards the end of the 2nd. 3rd here, getting back to that wing tee, ground and pound, and then here doing a really good job of allowing short gains. When you have 1st and 20, hey, give up the 5-yard in. When they try and run it, you know, give them to a loss of 1 or 2, that's fine. And this is 3rd and 16, right where you want to be.
Yeah, and a little bit of a slow end to the 3rd quarter there with Lasser just kind of going back and forth. Obviously, they had that one holding penalty that brought them back quite a bit. And, yeah, as you've been saying, Sequoia has been able to get those stops quickly, but, yeah, Lasser is just getting little yards by little yards, and they were able to keep possession for a lot of the end of the 3rd quarter.
Just one more thing I want to bring up. We talked about the girls' track team a little bit. Got a little bit of an update from Coach Mann. The 4x8 team was the 6th-place team. That's Madison Emmett, Susanna Rogers, Stella Waits, and Ella Grace. And the 4x100 team has qualified for finals tomorrow. That'll be Callie Bacon, Allie Johnson, Maya McCray, and Izzy Castillo. So the 4x8 team with a 6th-place finish, and we'll see that 4x1 team in action as well tomorrow as we go ahead and start the 4th quarter here in the spring game.
So, of course, congratulations to all of the Lady Chiefs out there running. 4 wide, 1 running back, loads up, throwing deep. And he had a man out there, but pretty good coverage there as well. Coverage was by number 27 out there, Cameron Massey, as we mentioned a couple of times, junior. So you like to see the depth at corner here for Sequoia. They're doing a pretty good job matching up one-on-one. Of course, as you mentioned, maybe not the quality of wide receiver that they may see later in the year with the Julian Nixon types. Of course, he's graduated, but you do have some home run hitters in the region. You'd like to see them sure that up, but doing a good job here playing against this competition.
Blackman, a graduating senior for Sequoia this year, seemed to do a pretty good job against Cherokee last year. I think he got under a pass by the Cherokee quarterback whose name has for some reason escaped me right now.
A.J. Swan.
A.J. Swan. I am so sorry, A.J. As Blackman was able to scoop one of those up on an underneath, on some underneath coverage. And we're doing something here. Are we flipping the field?
It is a spring game, so you never exactly know what's going on. The coaches kind of they might have talked beforehand, agreements, something like that. They might want to work on something in particular. You never really know. So they're going to figure it out here. I'm not really sure. It looks like the the ref will set up here at the 30. That's where he'll place the ball. And that is correct. So let's see, offense, defense, who runs out. We have no idea. Of course, as Chase mentioned earlier, normally you have coaches out there directing traffic. You know, if you ever watch A-Day, G-Day, those kind of things, you know, you see those coaches right behind the play, you know, calling people out and all that kind of stuff. So here in a simulated spring game, we don't actually know what's going on. We don't know the conversations. But nonetheless, I don't know, it's kind of fun, a little bit different.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get in a spring game, so we just got to be flexible. And fans, as soon as we know something, we'll let you know. But in the meantime, you've really gotten a treat, especially the first 3 quarters of football. Some really smash-mouth, hard-nosed football. You got to see some excellent passing by Matthew Traynor. You got to see some hard runs by Peyton Lucas, and you got to see some really big hits by this that Coach Bud has implemented here at Sequoia.
Well, it looks like Sequoia will take over on offense for some reason. So, Chase, why don't you go ahead and take over play-by-play for some reason?
Gladly, gladly. So a new quarterback in under center, so it looks like we're going to get some playing time for some other guys. Wingback takes this one to the far side of the near side of the field and is run out of bounds after a pickup of 6, maybe 7. Now they're going to walk back 1. So 7 yards on the play. Didn't get the number on the running back.
Alex Conti is the quarterback, and I believe number 40 was the ball carrier, Javen Salazar.
So once again, Van, another thing about spring games is we're getting used to some new numbers. So last year, number 27 was Manny Ramos. That's not his number this year, so we're still kind of adjusting, but we'll have this all figured out by fall football. So Conti under center now. Conti running this Sequoia Chiefs offense, handoff to the wingback once again, and down he goes after a loss of 1.
Still seeing a lot of physicality out there, though. You got to love it. So, one of the things that we talked about is that there was a little bit of a quarterback battle going on at the beginning of the year between Traynor and Connor Gillette, and it looks like that Conti is the second string now, so a little bit interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, and Conti, one of those guys, he was the starting quarterback for that JV team. Obviously, he did a great job leading them to a great season, so I think that's a little bit of the fruit of his labor right there, getting that second string spot.
Handoff up the middle. Big run here as the ball carrier is taken down at the 46-yard line. Once again, you said that's number 40.
Salazar there. We saw him chase as the fullback and the blocking back on the shotgun formation there at the end of the second. So kind of wonder if he's a specialist at blocking. So you'd like to get him a few reps and, maybe if you can while you're in summer, work on a little bit of out routes with him, right? Get him used to flivering out of the outfield. That way you can kind of get used to dumping some passes off to him in the flat.
First down for the Chiefs. Handoff to the second wingback. He'll pick up maybe 1 yard. And that is going to be number 25, Cameron Walker. First time we've called his name tonight. That'll bring up 2nd and 8. So it seems like both teams, pretty satisfied with the result here as they're getting some younger guys in. We'll get to see a little bit of the future of both of these programs and see who maybe can make a name for themselves later on in the fall.
This is also important to build, rapport with your young guys and get them used to seeing action.
Big run up the middle by Salazar. I thought he had got to the first down, but a generous spot for the defense makes him 1 yard short, and that'll bring up 3rd and 1 for the Chiefs as they are now inside Lassiter territory here in the fourth quarter. Your score is 28-10 after the Lassiter Trojans stuffed Sequoia's only scoring attempt here in the second half as Traynor fumbled the football and Lassiter recovered. Loading the line is Lassiter. Handoff up the middle for Salazar. Again, big run. He'll move the sticks for Sequoia. And this second-team offense for the Chiefs is in business as they are spotted at the 36-yard line.
Salazar putting in some work here, getting the ball a few times in a row and really able to, as you said, Chase, move the sticks up for the offense and get them up there slowly but surely.
One of the things, Will, both of you Wills, that we mentioned is Lassiter is a program that's a little bit of a rebuild. They want to capture that glory that they had in the early 2010s. Region titles in 09, 12, and 2013. So they're going to look to recapture some of that earlier success as Conti is driven out of bounds after a pickup of 4 after the official stops walking.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned about Lassiter is it's important to note they were demoted. I don't want to say demoted, but they went from 7A to 6A. They used to be in the region for 7A when that was Cherokee, Woodstock, Etowah, and then you also still had Roswell, and they played Walton instead of Milton and that like. So, it's just different.
Conti under center. Let's see what happens here. Wingback in motion. He'll take the pitch. And he's going to be met by a defender, but he shakes off an ankle tackle, takes a good angle inside, and he'll run for a big gain, picks up the first down, and now Sequoia working inside Lassiter's red zone as he's taken down at the 19-yard line. And I believe that was Tyler Bell on the carry, was it not?
Correct.
So Tyler Bell, we've called his name a couple times on both sides of the ball. Lassiter we talked about loaded regions during the halftime show, but Lassiter in a pretty stout region as well. They've got Kennesaw Mountain, Sprayberry, Allatoona. That's a pretty good region too.
Yeah, it's not bad. I would say that it's a little top heavy is the only thing. Region 7, 6A is also that way. As we'll let this play.
And nothing happening there for the running back. That is number 39, Adam Moreno.
But to finish that point, I think you see that. A fair bit. Let's talk about Region 5, 7A with our Cherokee County teams, right? That's not really a top-heavy. I mean, it is top-heavy, but it's, the bottom isn't weak. Woodstock and Etowah aren't weak programs historically. They historically have a really good tradition, and they'll get back to that. So when you add in Milton, Roswell, and, Alpharetta, obviously, you're going to add in a little bit of challenge into that. But Region 7, 6A is a little bit of that.
And a handoff up the middle, and Salazar going to find pay dirt. Touchdown Sequoia Chiefs. as Salazar with some grown man rushes, and he is rewarded for all of his hard work with a big touchdown as he puts 6 on the board and puts Sequoia ahead 34-10.
Good run there, good open field. I mean, just a lot of good blocking there, and that's, like we mentioned, that's wing T football, right? You continue to do the same thing again and again and again and again. It's kind of, the old definition of insanity. Do the same thing over and over again, expect a different result. Well, it's basically what you're doing with wing T, right? You're just hoping that after a while you'll wear them down.
And that's how it goes sometimes in wing T, especially in football, as that kick is up and good, courtesy of number 92.
It's Armand Kropler, I believe is how you'd say that.
Armand Kropler. So 35-10, your new score here from the Sequoia spring game.
Your hometown Sequoia Chiefs 35.
So a big spring game for Sequoia. A lot of things to look forward to. I think we can all agree they've had a fantastic night, and if they can carry this momentum into the season, then Will Hogendijk, you and I have a lot to look forward to calling these games on Chiefs TV. Obviously, we'd love to have Will Cooper with us, but he has prior commitments.
Contractual obligations.
Contractual obligations. Nothing wrong with a good old contractual obligation. So, Will, go ahead.
And yeah, the great thing is all this stuff is only after 8 days of practice, and they got the whole summer ahead of them. So, I mean, we really have a lot to look forward to and big things to expect from these guys, especially the younger guys.
In the summer weight training program, who knows what's going to happen there as we turn it over to Coop for the play-by-play.
As this one's taken right up the middle there, as you see Lassiter subbing in a few different guys now. No love lost, though. Still a lot of physicality there. As number 12, Levi Munt, is a true freshman coming in to play quarterback. So I guess he'll be a sophomore by the time we have this conversation next year. No, he's a true freshman this year. All right, so an 8th grader, technically. I believe there's a couple weeks left of school there. So I know in college people are finishing up finals. So if anybody's in college, congratulations to you guys for making it through. A lot of graduations going on here shortly. And then, of course, all of our folks here, congratulations, class of 2021, for making it through. As we're trying to get a number on the running back there, I believe that's Samuel Gadsden, number 28. He's a junior. 3 split, 1 tight. And that's a false start there. Guard pulled a little bit early. That's number 65, the guilty party, Walker Boswell, a sophomore.
Yeah, definitely way too early. He was in a hurry to try and get that pull off, but everybody else wasn't quite ready for him to pull just yet, so we'll back it up a little bit. Another thing that I remember about being in school, Will, the spring game was kind of like your big end of the year thing.
Yes.
As you went into the summertime months and you're getting off school for the nice weather, the spring game was kind of one of the big caps on that.
Yes, it certainly was, and that's kind of how things operate. As you see a pass here, that's laid out, and another great open field tackle out there. That time, going to be hard to get a number from that far away. Maybe I'm going to go with Christopher Search, number 48, and we'll see if I get corrected on that. Number 38, I was Luke Gaddis. Safety, other side. But it's one of the things, growing up in Canton and Cherokee County is you could always tell the warm weather and how school was going based on what was going on. So you had the Masters. That was the sign of warm weather coming. March Madness was getting there, and then baseball season kicking off. All that kind of happens at the same time. You're all looking forward to that because that means April's right around the corner, and then, you got the standardized testing, and that's kind of the end of it there. And then obviously the spring game taking place here in May. As Sequoia's trying to make a couple subs. Trying to align everybody there. It looks like they got what they wanted.
Lassiter can't figure out that formation. That slot receiver dancing around trying to figure out where he's supposed to be. So I guess maybe we're going to get a timeout here.
That was a delay of game is what it was called. No timeout taken.
Both teams frantically trying to make adjustments as we saw the defensive staff on Sequoia's sideline jumping up and down for all they're worth.
Yeah.
So this one will go back 3rd and long coming up for Lassiter.
3 to the near side, 1 to the far side. So they got the alignments they like now. So 3rd and a quarter of an acre. Pretty good throw there, just a little bit low. That target, number 82, a big target out there.
Mario Melson.
He's big. We don't have any measurements on him from the Lassiter roster, but he is a big young man as you see him there in the huddle.
we had that happen during the Centennial game as Julian Nixon was so big. I saw him come out into the slot, and I said, oh, this is interesting. Centennial has an offensive lineman lining up at wide receiver. It wasn't an offensive lineman. It was Julian Nixon.
Yes, and the thing about Julian, all credit due to him, is he's headed to Tennessee. But Julian, that or somebody at Centennial didn't tell him, but they do make a jersey size larger than medium for a guy that's 6'4", 270. And Daniel Calhoun's also on the team, so I assume that the team knows because Daniel Calhoun's 6'5", 300. If you haven't heard of Daniel Calhoun, keep an eye on him. He's as an 8th grader, he was offered by Georgia. He was 6'4", 300 pounds as an 8th grader, and then obviously last year as a freshman, he ended up making the way to play in the All-Star game in Rome and had a huge game over there as well. I know a personal friend of mine, Coach Kevin Saunders. He was part of the coaching over there for the freshman team, so shout out Coach Saunders as well. Hope he's doing well. There's a lot of regime changes, for up and down the 515, 575 corridor. We mentioned Woodstock, Pickens, Gilmer, all of those teams making some changes if you like a little mountain football.
Big run up the middle, and a truck stick hit by number 28 for Sequoia. And that is going to be Asante Chimanda. Not his first big hit of the night. But he's going to move the sticks after a hard run, and he lowered his head and put the boom on the defender and moves the chains for Sequoia as we now have Jackson Nesbitt coming in at quarterback for Sequoia. So we saw Traynor getting his reps with the first team, and we saw Conti, wide receiver, is way offside for Sequoia. He's going to have to back up. And Nesbitt running right into the arms of a tackler, but not before putting a big lick on him. And a big pickup of 5 there for the Chiefs.
Yeah, number 47, Jackson Hanson, listed as a tight end, but a freshman. He kind of met, as you mentioned, Nesbitt in the backfield and just got worked a little bit. So I can tell you, Sequoia certainly looks like they've been in the weight room a lot more than they have in years past. So hopefully that, translates further.
4-yard pickup on the big run.
As Luke McCray now comes in at quarterback, I believe. Nesbitt checks out. That is correct.
And at 9:45 at night on a spring game, we have a timeout taken by Lassiter.
Timeout, Lassiter.
Just on a getaway day, isn't that right, Chase?
Just on a getaway day.
3:25 left in the third.
That's quite all right. Again, we can't reiterate this enough, how great it is to have football back, have fans back in the stadium, and how much we're really looking forward to football in the fall with all the fans and students and everyone back in attendance.
Yeah, and even now it's got a little of that cool fall air, and as you've been saying all night, Will, it really does feel like the atmosphere is a good old fall game.
We have a running joke at WLJ. We had a guy, part of our broadcast, and he would say every week, even first week, it's a playoff atmosphere. So that's kind of a buzzword for us. We like to say everything's a playoff atmosphere, and it truly is. I mean, it feels like if you closed your eyes, you could definitely sell me that it's an October night. Because it just is that little bit of coolness in the air.
Yep, a little bit of that
nice,
chill.
But it's comfortable. Especially after summer, you're just begging for that.
Wingback in motion, going to take the handoff and wrapped up in the backfield. Maybe falls ahead back to the line of scrimmage, so no gain after the short. It looked like a loss for a second, but they're going to give him the line of scrimmage, so 3rd and 6 coming back up for the Chiefs. After the run for no gain, Sequoia still on top of Lassiter, 35-10 here in the 4th quarter. So Sequoia going to give it one more try here as we're now in the experimental phase of the spring game. Both teams just kind of doing different things. Big gap here for the running back for Sequoia. Still dragging a defender with him, stays on his feet, and is finally brought down after a big run, taken down at the 32-yard line. And the number on that running back is going to be
number 28, Asante Chimanda.
Chimanda having a pretty physical game. I like the way he plays. He plays with a little bit of a physical edge to him.
Nesbitt checks back into the game. It's a little bit of a quarterback rotation here.
So Sequoia trying some things out at quarterback. Traynor laid a big hit on one of the backup quarterbacks in practice. Ooh, a big run, nice gap along the sideline, foot race, and dragged out of bounds at the 15-yard line. We saw Matthew Traynor in spring practice. He laid a pretty big hit on one of the quarterbacks, and one of the coaches said, hey, don't hurt the backup quarterback. You might need him one day. So Sequoia making sure they have a capable option at quarterback just in case the absolute worst should happen for this Chiefs team.
Well, football is one of those games that depth is so important. It really is. I mean, you know, you could say that about any sport, but football, you just don't know the injuries that you'll sustain over the course of a season.
And another big run headed for the goal line. Big hit at the goal line. Do they give him the touchdown? No, they're going to say he came down at the 1-yard line.
Big run called out at the 1.
Hard way to make a living for a running back, but a nice tackle there by the defender as Cameron Walker almost punches one in for Sequoia, as we got to be in the waning moments of the fourth quarter of a 35-10 spring scrimmage. So good showing for this Sequoia Chiefs team, particularly the defense. They have played a hard-nosed game, and no offensive touchdowns allowed after that first one that is looking more and more like just an accidental slip-up for that defense in the beginning of the game. So Sequoia knocking on the door, looking to punch that one in, and they will. So Sequoia with another big touchdown as Salazar puts that one in the end zone for the Chiefs. So pending the extra point, it'll be 42-10. As
2
both
minutes remaining in the fourth quarter.
2-minute warning there.
So with 2 minutes left, they're not even going to kick the extra point. They're just going to let them go back to the other side of the field, I suppose. So I guess we're cutting out special teams for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, you know, why not, right?
So technically speaking, it is a 41-10 game.
Labeled as 42. Minster automatic out there between Joseph Ryan and Armand Kropler.
Sequoia's winning by 30+.
It's a lot.
Being
Doing
the
pretty good.
Being the point of the exercise here. But you know, Lassiter has a good bit of talent on their side of the ball. We've seen it, and I think maybe as the quarterback Bryson Harrison grows, he may become that option. We've seen some really good run plays by their running back, who has also had a fantastic game, plus an 80-yard run for a touchdown on the first play from offense.
As this is a handoff and a great open field tackle, number 47 there, sniffing that one out. That's Roe Parrish, sophomore. So a loss about 4, and you're really just seeing Sequoia, even here in the waning part of a game where it'd be easy to kind of take a couple of plays off. You see they're still really going at it, so you got to love to see it. You figure Lassiter will probably try and keep it on the ground here as you're in the 2 minutes. Probably content with what they've seen, or at least had their fill of it. Maybe not content with it would be the wrong word.
Definitely a lot to work on, but both teams have a good bit to work on. But if you're a Sequoia Chiefs fan, you have to be feeling optimistic about how the way this spring game went.
For sure. 3 split, tried to send a man in motion. He wasn't listening. So instead they'll just hand it off here. It's number 39 on the carry. He bounces it outside, gains back to the original line of scrimmage and another yard. Once again, that was 39 for the Trojans. That's Joseph Grice,
Down by several, Chiefs.
a freshman, so an 8th grader currently. So you see, as we mentioned, we've talked a lot about Lassiter, and it's been a lot of sophomores and even freshmen here later. So a very young team. You have to feel like you like that moving forward with the talent. So we see Harrison Hood down here to our left in his sliding pants. Baseball player, I assume, got batting gloves out of the back. As he's wrapped up there behind the...
Hood not playing tonight. Where's Harrison at?
Just saw him walking down through there.
I got you. I see him.
Point him out.
Yep. I see him all the way on the far left side of the.
So those are either sliding pants or he got those tailored. So he had some gloves in the back last I saw him.
Carrying on.
So swiftly moving on. 4th and forever. 3 wide and the fumbled snap. And that'll probably be the last time Lassiter touches the ball. So Chase, take it from here.
I think they're going to go ahead and call that one.
Yeah, it's a good stop.
And that's the end of the game.
I think everybody's decided that we've had a
we've seen it.
We've had our fill. The result is all but assured, and now it is assured. So Sequoia victorious by a score of 41-10.
Your hometown Sequoia Chiefs 41.
As both teams go to shake hands, a big spring game showing for the Sequoia Chiefs. Will Hogendijk, what you got for us?
I think it was a great game. Sequoia has a lot to look forward to. As we've been saying, with only 8 days of practice, I mean, they really had a lot of guys show up. Salazar scored a couple touchdowns. Jamonda with some good runs. Sanders had good coverage. Obviously, Traynor doing well. Conti and Nesbitt able to get some reps at quarterback. So really, all around, a fantastic performance. And I think they should be really proud of what they did.
So, guys, each one of us is going to pick a player of the game. Will, we'll let you go first.
I mean, I think you can't really pick anyone other than Matthew Traynor. I mean, with everything he did, yeah, he did have that interception early in the game, but he was able to bounce back really quickly. I mean, the touchdowns that he had were, I think they were both passing ones, so that's good to see, especially from that mainly wing T offense. So I would have to go with Matthew Traynor.
Since you're going to take Hancock, I'll go ahead and take Peyton Lucas.
Oh, I was going to take Peyton Lucas. I was going to let you have
Oh,
Hancock.
all right. Well, well, I guess the answer would be, I mean, if we're both being honest, it would probably be Hancock there. I just think for somebody that we didn't know coming into this, we've heard Peyton Lucas's name, especially on the outside. As we mentioned, you guys are much more tied into the program than I am, obviously. But we've mentioned Peyton Lucas before in conversations outside of the program. But Hancock, to me, was really impressive and definitely somebody that we'll be talking about moving forward. And
particularly as a sophomore. You know, we got to, people more familiar with the program got to see him last season getting some reps at running back, getting some reps in that defensive secondary. Did a fantastic job each time, and the coaches had done nothing since then but continued to praise him. So for people closer to the program, it's no surprise that Jackson Hancock had a phenomenal game tonight. Matthew Traynor and Peyton Lucas, also really big games, both two-way players. Matthew Traynor and Jackson Hancock. A lot of things to look forward to going into the fall for the Sequoia Chiefs team. We're going to go ahead and get out of here for the evening. And Will, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us here in the booth. We want to thank all of our sponsors. Thank everyone who is watching here tonight on Chiefs TV. Once again, you can catch all the games this fall here on Chiefs TV. It'll be myself and Will Hogendijk. And if you want to listen to some other Cherokee County games on the radio, you can tune into WLJA 101.1 and listen to Will Cooper and Dave Gardner call some local action, some exciting action, and we'll go ahead and plug the radio station.
Yeah, as you mentioned, WLJ 101.1 FM. Also find us anywhere, anytime, WLJRadio.com. Of course, we have the sports tab for all of the writings over there. The Sports Blitz, Dave Garner and myself do a little bit of talk about Cherokee County football.